Hello, hello, 13th jurors. Hello, it is good to see y'all back here again. We are making do with the day we've been given. So, since the jury selection is still going, and now they're saying that they aren't possibly going to have our widower trial starting until Friday, we are going to take a look around or take a look at the Austin Ford trial. Now, if you weren't in this morning, if you weren't in the stream just a little while ago when we were talking about it, then you may have missed us. But I want to show you something. So the the trial is I want to show you this because it's adorable and it matters to me. Oh, I forgot. I gotta share my screen. Share screen. So oh, and Lucy Cam is not on because Lucy, I don't know if you can see, but she's asleep on me right here. So she's snuggling mama. So you don't get Lucy Cam right now, but as soon as she gets tired of being right here. Oh, yes, I'm talking about you, sweet little girl. As soon as she gets tired of being right here, then I will and she wants to go back to her bed, I will put it on. I wanted to show y'all this. Okay, so the trial that we're about to watch, we're going to catch up on it, is from Gwinnett County, which is, I grew up in Walton County. And my mom and my dad actually lived in Gwinnett County when they were in high school. They were high school sweethearts. Gwinnett County is about 10 minutes down the road. It's remember the Richard Merritt trial that we did? They that house was in like Stone Mountain was the city, but Stone Mountain, the city, is named after Stone Mountain Park, which if you saw the little thumbnail that I put together, in the background, that's a picture of the actual, I mean, it's huge. It's just a big old rock. But I want to show y'all, this. This is, let me add it. I know, calm down. Let's see. I've got a picture of my dad laying on Stone Mountain. My dad has passed. I love my daddy. But I've got a picture of my dad laying on Stone Mountain. And then years later, I got a picture of my kid laying on Stone Mountain. So I'm getting it pulled up now. I'm going to show y'all. Super cute. All right. So see, this was my dad. And then this is Jacob. This is, I mean, when I say it's a stone, like when it's they call it Stone Mountain, it's very literally a big stone mountain. So I mean, you can see it's I'm gonna take Lucy Cam off while she's laying. But it's kind of cool. I think I have, let me see. I probably have more pictures too of, oh, God, he was so little. This is us on the top of Stone Mountain. This is at the park on the top of Stone Mountain. That's when Jacob was little bitty. I'm not showing any recent pictures of him, and this is the first time I've ever actually shown pictures of him when he was younger. But this was actually at Stone Mountain. I mean, I have a ton of pictures at Stone Mountain, and camping and all kinds of stuff. You can see actually, let me hide the name of the person who was there with me. You can see on this is camping at Stone Mountain, and you can see the top of the mountain right over here on the other side of the lake. So when I say Stone Mountain was like, you know, my old neighborhood, it is very quite literally my old neighborhood. And it was, I mean, it's awesome. They have, let me pull this part. I gotta keep hiding who I'm trying not to like put people out there. So this is taken, they have like this little thing that you can ride to the top of the mountain and back down. And so this is going by the carving. They have a carving on the side of the mountain, and the thing that takes you up there, I forget what they're called, but the thing that takes you up there, it goes right by the carving, and they do a laser show on the side of it, which is cool. They have like this big grassy area in front of where the carving is. It's like this huge park area. And they have, they do a laser show where they show all these, like they'll play music and stuff. And, it's really cool. I took my nieces and my nephew there for their first time. Here's another picture. This one's kind of cool because you can see, make sure everybody's hidden. You can see Atlanta. This is on the top of the mountain too. You can see Atlanta in the background. Like you can barely see the skyline back there. So it's a really, really cool place. They have a, when you ride to the top, there's like a big building up there, whatever, where you can get off and stuff, you know, and they have like a snack shop and stuff. They used to have a snack shop up there and everything. And my mom, when she was in high school, her very first job was at the snack shop on top of Stone Mountain when she was in high school. That was her very first job. So it is an incredibly beautiful place. They do like fireworks and stuff there too. After the laser show, especially, they have like a huge fireworks display. So it's really cool. So if you're ever in Georgia, it's east of Atlanta, but it's incredibly beautiful. So this trial, now the only thing that I really know about it, this is not one, because I wasn't planning on doing this one. So I have not done a deep dive into this. All I know is that Tori Lang is, I think she was 18 years old, and her body was found in Stone Mountain Park under a tree. And from what I understand, I think that they have talked about the debate is whether or not Austin, who is allegedly or supposedly whatever is supposed to be her best friend, he's on trial for her murder. So the debate is if it was him or if it was suicide. So from what I understand, that's what it is. The last trial ended in a hung jury. So now they're doing a retrial. So let's see. What's our other one?
Does either side wish to invoke the rule of sequestration at the appropriate time?
Yes, Judge, I invoke it now.
Mr. Lewis for the state?
Yes,
very yellow, doesn't it? Oops. I just hit the wrong button.
Mr. Wooten, I would prefer if you could move the,
there he is. I'm going to skip forward till we get to
All right, good morning, members of the jury. Welcome back. I hope everyone was able to get home safely with all the storms last night and that you had a more necessary that these instructions after
Let's skip
opening
through
statements,
instructions.
full attention to the evidence. And I will turn now to
All right,
the
so
attorneys for opening statements.
we're skipping through,
Is there an opening statement on behalf of the state of Georgia?
doing the highlights. So we're going to go straight to opening statements.
Good morning. Tori Lang was the 18-year-old daughter of Teresa and Tori Lang, originally in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, great. We have another one that
She was a
doesn't stand
recent
by the mic.
graduate of Stevenson High, and by all accounts, a bright, effervescent, beautiful young woman.
Okay, wait. Before we get going, okay, I was just about to say before we even get going, let's go ahead and cast his role because he is 100% Uncle Phil. 100% Uncle Phil. Okay.
I did not have the pleasure of knowing her, and her mother and her grandmother are far better equipped than I to tell you about Tori when she was alive. The last time Tori was seen in their neighborhood, leaving the area in which they lived, was about 10:30 on July 27th of 2021. She was seen on a neighbor's ring cam video leaving the area in her car. As far as Teresa and Tori knew, she just did not come back. There was just a sheer coincidence. Teresa was changing the family's cell phone account. So she had Tori's cell phone in order to port the number over from one carrier to another. So they couldn't call Tori. The following morning, Tori still didn't come home. So they reached out to her friends, or the people at least she thought were her friends. One of the people who Teresa reached out to was the defendant, Austin Ford. Austin told Teresa he hadn't seen Tori, didn't know where Tori was. But vowed that he'd look for her and that if he heard anything, he'd let her know. He never let her know. Simultaneously, at about 6:33 in the morning, July 28th, Theodore Young and his wife were taking their morning walk in Yellow River Park. Mr. Young is an older gentleman, will go through the park and pick up cans, goes walking early in the morning. It was August, so it's probably going to be really, really hot. I'm sorry, July. Still. He sees what appears to be a person lying under a tree. He gets closer, and what he finds is the body of a young woman who has been shot one time in the head. Mr. Young called to her to see if she was still alive, noticed that she was not. Police. Officers with the Gwinnett County Police Department, specifically Officer Casey Smith and Officer Remy, responded to the scene. They're both uniformed patrol officers. Officer Smith was training Officer Remy. And they did what patrol officers are supposed to do. They assessed the scene, determined that there was more things that they could handle, noted what they could note, and waited for detectives who would do a more thorough investigation of who this young woman might be and what might have happened to the patrol officers, Officer Remy and Officer Rachel Lasky, did locate 2 shell casings. They didn't do anything with the shell casings. What they did was just mark them first with a piece of paper, so that they would not be disturbed, so other officers would know not to step on them, kick them, or otherwise disturb what could be crucial evidence in whatever happened to this young woman who was found here dead. They then turned the scene over to detectives. The initial responding detective was then Corporal David Smith. Now, what happens after the evidence is marked and what's there is roped off by the patrol officers? Crime scene investigation and the medical examiner are called. The crime scene investigation, or CSI, with Gwinnett County will take measurements of the scene. They will collect the shell casings, photographs, videos to document the scene so that detectives will have all the information that is available in order to solve what is now apparently a case. The only physical evidence that CSI was able to locate was the 2 shell casings. They did not find any vehicle that appeared to be hers. They went so far as to have a police academy class basically canvass the entire area, lined up side by side, walked the entirety of the park, because as you'll see, it's ultimately a very large area. But they didn't find anything. All we've got from the scene is 2 shell casings. I'll talk to you a little bit about the shell casings later. They then turned the investigation over to the detectives. Or, I'm sorry, over to the medical examiner.
This is normal.
The medical examiner's office came and they do what they're supposed to do. The medical examiner's role is to examine the remains of the young lady and to make a determination of cause and manner of death. That is done through collecting observations at the scene and through an autopsy. The autopsy was performed by Dr. Terry. I don't think I need to explain exactly what an autopsy is, but that took place on July 28th of 2021 and into July 29th of 2020. Now, mind you, at this time, as far as the police, the medical examiner go, this is an unknown young woman. She didn't have any ID. There was, at this time, no way to tell just who she was. She did have photos, she did have tattoos, and so officers were able to take pictures of her tattoos in hopes to identify her. The medical examiner, Dr. Terry, did make certain observations relating to, and did make a ruling on this. What Dr. Terry will testify to is that she was killed by a single gunshot to the head that occurred from 10 to 12 inches away. Now, she can tell that by the manner in which the bullet entered Tori's head and by other physical traces that were left by the shot itself. She is, again, far better equipped to tell you about that than I am. But essentially, you can tell to a point how far away a gun is fired. If it was very close up, there would be stippling burning. If it's further, there are powder burns. And if it's even further out, there are none of those things present, and so the range would be undetermined. But in this case, Dr. Terry was able to determine that it was between 10 to 12 inches away from Tori's head. She determined that Tori was lying in the place that she was found when she was shot. Which ultimately does mean that the location of the gun at the time it was fired can be extrapolated. So, because of what was there, what was not there, Dr. Terry was not able to make a determination about the manner of death. So the manner of death in this case is undetermined. But keep in mind, this ruling, this report, and this determination were made on the 29th of July. Meanwhile, at some point, members of Tori's family are able to identify her tattoos by a photograph that has been put out into news media. And the young woman who officers found in the park now has a name, Tori Lang. Corporal Smith goes to speak with the Lang family and notify them that their daughter has in fact been located and what has happened to her. They also learn that Teresa's 6-hour P365 is no longer in front. Not only with this, the investigation continues on. They continue to speak to Tori's friends. They continue to gather information. Due to promotion and just the natural shuffling of the police department, Corporal Smith was promoted and a different detective was assigned to the case. Detective Angela Carter. She continues the investigation from where Corporal Smith picked up. Now, one thing Corporal Smith did find before he turned the case over to Detective Carter was that where Austin Ford lived, his neighbor had a ring camera. The ring camera captured Tori coming over to Austin's house around 10:40 on July 27th. It later captured them leaving together shortly thereafter. And you can see that Tori appears to be wearing the clothes in which she's found when she is leaving with the defendant. The ring camera later catches the defendant coming home, maybe about 1:40 in the morning, wearing something different. Detective Carter speaks to the defendant by phone, and he continues to, I'll just say it, lie. He does not admit that he was with Tori that night. He doesn't admit that he was at Yellow Park. He does not admit that he knew what happened to Tori. Mind you, this was a friend of hers, supposedly. This was supposed to be a friend. This is a young man who her mother knew her to associate with. A man who, when she was looking for Tori, she thought that this supposed friend would know where she was, would be helpful in finding her, and maybe alleviate her fears that something terrible had happened to her daughter. That's not what he did. He just said, I don't know where she is, and pretended to look for her. But he knew where she was. He went to her funeral. Hugged her mother. Knowing all the while exactly what happened. About 20 months. He did mysteriously skip the vigil that the family held shortly after Tori's murder at the park, at the location of her death. The defendant, though notified those supposedly her friends, he didn't go to that. But Detective Carter's investigation also involved getting the defendant's cell phone records and his geolocation through Google. One thing a lot of people don't know about Google is Google tells them. Google tells them if you have a Google app on your phone, it is reporting to Google what your location is. Now, the purpose of this is Google's, and it has to do with advertising and making sure that you get relevant ads because businesses pay money to have their ads put in front of you. And if I'm standing at 75 Langley Drive, a business somewhere near 75 Langley Drive might want to show me an ad so that while I'm here, I can patronize their business. So using a search warrant, we were able to get those records along with his phone records. They show a couple of things. What they show is Austin Ford's phone bouncing off of cell towers near Yellow River Park around the time he left his apartment with Tori on the ring camera. Then it stops. little more pinging, a little more. Which would indicate that the phone is no longer sending a signal out. Well, how would the phone not send a signal out? Because it's turned off. The phone then reappears after 1 in the morning, moving at a rate that is faster than one could walk. What is that? Well, that means that it wasn't walking, it was probably in a car. It's simply a matter of if you're at, because it doesn't follow you like a little video where you see the dot moving on the map like they do in the phone TV. That's the, it shows locations and times. And you can calculate the speed it takes to travel between the two locations if you're getting the phone. And Detective Carter was able to determine that he had to be moving faster than someone could walk. Detective Carter, now armed with this information about his phone records, about his geolocation, the fact that he did not call Tori after she was killed, his supposed best friend, his alleged friend, who is lying dead in Yellow River Park, who has told his mother, her mother, I'm going to help you look for her, I'm going to help find her. He doesn't call her, not one time. Not because he knew about recording of the cell phone number and where Tori's phone actually was, but because he knew she wasn't going to answer. So armed with this information, Detective Carter interviews the defendant in person. And for the first part of the interview, he continues on with the same line of reasoning and story that he is perpetuating from the beginning. He tries to cast off responsibility for Tori's death onto Scoop. The final Scoop was, I cannot remember his name right now, but he was Tori's sometime boyfriend. Agent Carter was able to determine Detective Carter was able to determine that he was somewhere else at the time. But the defendant keeps bringing him up, keeps trying to cast aspersions on something. And he continues to do that throughout the interview. At some point, Detective Carter confronts him with the information that she had. I know your cell phone was outside of the room. I know you were working at night. I know that you left, and it was probably in her car because you were moving faster than you could have been moving if you were walking. The defendant now changes. What he tells Detective Carter is that he was with Tori the night of the 27th. That she came to his house despondent and suicidal. That they went to Yellow River Park and he saw that she had her mother's gun. He says they talked in the park, that she told him she was going to hurt herself, that he took the gun from her, placed it on the ground, gave her a hug, that she pushed him away, grabbed the gun, and shot herself in the head. That's the story that he told Detective Carter. He continued on into that he was scared. So he took the gun. He took her car. The gun he disposed of by throwing it in a pond somewhere in the county. I would check the pond, couldn't find the gun, but it was a year after he threw the gun in the pond that they were finally able to check. But the gun was never found. It wasn't on the scene, which is important. He took her car, and his description was that he parked it in the cut. Same term, an alley, just kind of an out of the way place. So he parked the car somewhere, and then he just went back home. The car was found August 1st in a nature preserve in DeKalb County, burned to the frame. Now, unfortunately, there was no evidence that was able to be recovered from the car. It was so completely burned, there's not really a way to determine whether or not even an accelerant was used. But the car was essentially burned down to the frame. This is a murder. Now, Dr. Terry is going to tell you that the manner and cause of death is undetermined. But she made that ruling and that determination on July 9th, 2021, without being a party to or privy to the cover-up, or attempted cover-up by the defendant, without knowing that the car was burned, without knowing any of the other information that was gathered afterwards. Now, some of that has been given to her, and that would not necessarily change her rule. But this is why we have Dr. Terry's determination of the manner of cause of death is not what determines whether or not somebody is guilty of murder. That is the 14th. Murder in Georgia, as charged, is felony murder, is committing a felony during which the death of another is caused. Well, the notion that Tori picked up a gun off the ground and shot herself in the side of the head 10 to 12 inches away in such a way that it severed her brainstem, which would have stopped her movement, functioning, heartbeat, breathing. It's almost instantly. While laying down is far-fetched. The only reasonable way this could have happened involves this defendant's hand on a firearm, which is a deadly weapon. And to point a firearm at another person is aggravated assault. There are other charges on the indictment, voluntary manslaughter, 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The top 2 counts, 10 to 12 inches away, everybody knows what a foot is. It's just not a common way to commit suicide. It's, as described by the defendant, just unlikely. It's also contradictory to the physical evidence found by Dr. Terry. Those findings, those physical findings, those are important. They found in particular that she was where she was when she was shot. Because that determines where the firearm was. Those are facts. When you look at the situation as a whole, after hearing the evidence from the stand, after seeing video, after seeing photos, I'm going to come back and ask you to find this defendant guilty, in particular, of felony murder and aggravated assault. Because they will have proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's just what it sounds like, a reasonable doubt. It's not a burden the state shies away from. It's not a burden that the state is scared of, afraid of, or feels the need to over-explain to you, but one that it proudly picks up and says, this murderer is guilty of murder. Look at him cover up his murder.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lawrence Lewis, any defense opening?
Okay. So I have the boost on and everything, but when they don't stand by the mic, there's not a whole lot I can do. But I was trying to type it in as from everything he was saying. But basically, the main point of his stuff, he said that Austin changed his story, which was in their mind incriminating. He originally told investigators that he had seen her, but that she, or I guess he said that she had showed up to his place and was suicidal and distraught and asking him to kill her and saying that she would find somebody else if he didn't. He said that he didn't go to the park with her. But then that changed last time. That changed over time. The Ring doorbell footage from his neighbor saw them leaving together, and she was wearing the clothes that she was wearing when her body was found. And then it showed him returning back and to the house alone. And but his story changed a few times. He said that when they had gotten to the park, that he tried to talk her out of killing herself, and that he, she put the gun on the ground. He tried to hug her, and she like pushed him away, grabbed the gun, and shot herself. And then he said that he panicked and grabbed the gun. They said the gun was not at the scene, so he panicked, grabbed the gun, and then left in her car and burned her car up, and then went home. And the car was like burnt beyond recognition, so they weren't able to get any evidence or anything out of that. So hopefully Steve Harvey here stands by the microphone. We'll see.
Opening statements in a criminal jury trial is supposed to be, and it's typically where lawyers outline what they believe the evidence is going to be in the case, the evidence that you're going to hear and see from the witness stand. And that evidence typically consists of facts. Evidence is facts, not feelings. There will be 5 undisputed facts in the case. Fact number 1, the morning of July 28, 2021, Tori Lang died by gunshot wound in Yellow River Park. That's an undisputed fact. That's the first undisputed fact. The second undisputed fact is Austin Ford is the only other person that's present, if you believe his statement to the police, when Tori Lang is shot, and he, Austin Ford, tells the police Tori Lang shot herself. That's an undisputed fact. The third undisputed fact, Austin Ford talks to the police face to face 8 months after Tori Lang dies, which is also 8 months after the medical examiner has made the determination, I cannot tell if it is a homicide or a suicide. Medical examiner and Austin Ford didn't get together. The medical examiner makes a determination on July 29th, 2021. I cannot tell, based on the science, whether it was a suicide or a homicide. Well, she made that determination back on July 29th. She sticks by that very determination, April of 2023. As we sit here today, there's no other medical examiner, expert, or scientist that has contradicted Dr. Terry. So that brings us to the fourth fact. Dr. Carol Terry has just extensive experience. She's going to tell you she's got like 61 or 6,200 autopsies. Let me just tell you right now, that's a very conservative number. That's a very conservative number. She probably has closer to 7,000 or 8,000 autopsies since 1990, when she began the study of pathology. When I mean study, I mean the residency. Medical school's over. She does a 5-year residency. She is and has been devoted to pathology, absolutely devoted. So she's done 6,000 autopsies, and she will testify under oath the same way she testified at a prior hearing in April of 2023, that she can determine with scientific certainty that Tori Lang was lying down face up when she was shot. But she will tell you, Dr. Terry will, I cannot determine, the science cannot determine whether Tori Lang committed suicide or if somebody else shot her. That's the fourth fact. That's what Dr. Terry's going to tell you. Facts, not feelings. The fifth fact is, and you're going to learn this, the gun that Tori Lang brings to Yellow River Park belongs to her family. Tori Lang brings the gun and then shoots herself. There's no contradiction to that. The state now wants to talk about all the possibilities. Are the possibilities supported in the evidence? Well, that's not really that important, because we get into our feelings now. Get into our feelings. He was supposed to be her friend. Listen, can we just stick with the facts? The facts. Dr. Carol Terry, looking at the science, says it's just as likely that it was a suicide as it was a homicide. Now, we're going to twist that up. We're going to spend 3 days twisting that line right there up. We're going to twist and twist. It's assisted suicide, because it's definitely not count 3. I was mad and then I decided to shoot. It's definitely not going to be result of a sudden, violent, and irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation. It's not going to be that at all, because the science is undisputed that Tori Lang lies down, face up when the bullet pierces her head. So there's not going to be any evidence of sudden, violent, or irresistible. That's just there. That's just there. I guess if you don't like the murder charge. So here's the only question you're going to have to deal with. Is it suicide, in which case my client is not guilty of anything, or is it assisted suicide, which is illegal? Because there's no question, based on the science, that's unrefuted. No expert. And Dr. Terry has not changed her opinion at all. So we're going to go back and forth, and we're going to twist this all around. But I'm telling you now what you're going to have to determine. And the state would like for you, get into your feelings and overrule the science. What? Let's just go with the facts. The judge will tell you at the end of trial, we got to look at the facts. You got to put your common sense with the facts. And when you put your common sense with the facts, the only just verdict in this case is going to be a not guilty on all the charges. Thank you very much. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawrence Lewis. All right, state, please call your first witness.
Teresa Lang.
Who they say Teresa is somebody. Overrule the science. Let me change this. Currently on the stand. Whoa. What happened? Calm down. Uh-oh, what did I do? Oops, I skipped ahead too far now. Trying to get my life together. All right. Gosh, she looks like her mama, doesn't she? Oops.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Please tell the jury your name.
My name is Teresa Lang.
And Teresa, who is Tori Lang to you?
Tori, or Kiwi, she's my daughter. She's my husband and I only daughter.
Oh.
And we call her Kiwi.
Oh.
She remembers the Kiwi. That was her nickname given to her birth. And she amplifies that to this day. She's like fuzzy on the outside and sweet in the middle. She's so sweet.
All the way and put those microphones right where you're speaking for me. Thank you.
She looks like her mama, doesn't she? She's beautiful.
Where are you?
Yeah, I'm just right now. How she came about her nickname Kiwi, and her favorite color is green. And
how old was Tori?
Tori was 18.
In July of 2021, where was she in life?
At that time, she was in school, online for engineering, and it was a program she got accepted in for engineering, and she was looking forward to working in the field engineering because it was going to pay her a stipend, in the program for doing the engineering program. And meanwhile, she was looking for work until that happened.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. It's just a little bit distracting. If I could just ask at defense counsel table to kind of minimize the conversation. Sorry, Judge. I apologize.
Where did Tori go to high school?
She started at 2 high schools. She went to Arabian Mountain High School, and then she eventually graduated from Stevenson High School.
Show you which mark the states 1 and 2. What are states 1 and 2?
Arabian Mountain is another just random mountain in the middle of nowhere.
Both true and accurate depictions of your daughter.
It's really pretty though.
Your Honor, the state would tender states 1 and 2.
1 and 2 are admitted without objection.
Published them.
Yeah, can you reach, you need the picture?
I'm showing State's Exhibit 1, which has already been admitted to the jury. Can you tell the jury about this photo?
Yes, it's a photo shoot we did for her for graduation. She graduated in 2020, and she didn't get a chance to have a traditional graduation because of COVID-19. So we still had our photo shoot, our moment for graduation. So we did a personal photo shoot for her, and she's wearing all her medals and cords and her diploma that she achieved in high school.
When is the last time you remember seeing Tori?
The last time I remember seeing Tori was on July 27 and 21.
You know what time it was?
It was around 3:30 p.m. that day on a Tuesday.
The last time you saw her, did Tori have her phone?
No, she didn't have her phone.
Why not?
She didn't have her phone because I was transferring our services over from Verizon to Xfinity. And that process was very tedious. It was very stressful. It took days for the porting to take place. Every day I was calling to port the lines over. It wasn't working.
And you
I
had
mean,
to
it
have,
took like hours, not really days, but like hours, and like a day or so for both of me to complete.
did you have to have her phone in order to port her number over to Xfinity?
Yes.
So as far as you know, did she have a phone with her the last time you saw her?
No.
When did you come to the conclusion that Tori was missing?
We should return home that night or the next day.
What did you do as a result of her not coming home?
Well, Tuesday afternoon, we were over to celebrating a friend's birthday that night or whatever. And after that, when I came home, she still wasn't there. So I went out looking for her. I was driving by her friends' houses and things of that sort, looking for the car, looking for her, calling around looking for her. Couldn't find her.
What kind of car was it that she drove?
She drove a 2012 Nissan Versa blue.
Did you find it? Were you aware of some of the people who you believe to be her friends? Did you know any of them?
Yes.
Who'd you know?
I know Austin Ford and just a few girlfriends she had, friends.
When you discovered Tori was missing, did you talk to the defendant?
Yes.
What did he tell you the first time you spoke to him?
I spoke to him shortly after midnight of the 27th. I called from Tori's phone. At this point, her phone was ported over. After midnight, it ported over. So I was able to use her phone, not my phone. So I called him. He didn't answer when I called. But then again, he called me back shortly after.
What did you ask him?
I was like, hey, have you seen Tori? You know, he was like, we're looking for her. He was like, no, I haven't seen her. And earlier that day, he was looking for her. He came by the house looking for her as well on that Tuesday.
Okay, when you say that day, I need you to be specific. So you called him on the 28th, which was a
Wednesday,
This was
early,
Wednesday.
yeah, it was like around 12:30 that night.
Okay.
I mean, midnight or after midnight, going to Wednesday morning.
All right. So that was the 28th, about 12:30. You say 12:30 in the morning?
Yeah, something like that.
This is the 28th into the 29th or the 27th into the 28th?
The 27th to the 28th.
So you called very early morning on the 28th,
Yes.
and he said he didn't know where she was.
He called me back. I was like, hello. And he's like, I can hear him in the background saying, this Tori, like whispering, like he's talking to someone. This Tori. Like he was like, he had Tori on the phone. I said, no, it's not Tori, someone. We're looking for Tori. Have you seen her? You know, but he was looking for her early that day on Tuesday as well. I haven't seen her. So he said, you haven't seen Tori. I said, you sure you haven't seen her? He said, no, I haven't seen her. I was like, okay. So I was on to the next, trying to call someone else to see, have you seen her?
Did you talk to him again before you found out what happened to Tori?
No.
Did you talk to him after you found out what happened to Tori?
Yes.
When was that?
I found out what happened to Tori on the 29th, which was a Thursday. So it was maybe late Thursday afternoon I spoke with him.
What was your conversation about on that Thursday afternoon?
When I called him Thursday, I'm like, listen, I know Tori came to your house to see you Tuesday, whatever. He was like, yeah, Mom told me that you were going to be upset with me. I'm like, why? Because I did see Tori that night. He just didn't tell me he saw her that night. You know, he said he saw her that she came over to his house.
Did he say where she went after he said she left his house?
No, he said he didn't know where she went.
What happened after that? Tell me about what happened in relation to this after that second time you spoke to the defendant.
Well, when I called him, I told him I knew that Tori came over because I seen her on a Ring camera, my neighbor's Ring camera. We surfing around 10:30 Tuesday night. I know, you know, she came back to the house. I knew she was leaving the house to go back over there because she went to the mailbox. And the she got something out of her mailbox. I was like, I knew she came to your house because she came to the house around 10:30 and she left to go back out. And I knew she was coming by you.
This is from your neighbor's ring.
Right. I just told him I was on a Ring camera, and that's when he admitted, yeah, she did come over, you know, to his house. And I asked him, so she didn't say where she was going? He's like, no, she didn't say where she was going.
Was that the end of that conversation with the defendant?
No, he made a statement about when Tori came over, she wanted $300 to find someone to hurt her. I'm like, hurt her? Like, what are you talking about?
Did he explain?
So he made that statement, like, she wants somebody to hurt her. Like, why she wants somebody to hurt her? What are you, like, it was confusing. Like, why would you say that? Like, what are you talking about? So when he told me that statement, I went and told the detective what he said.
Detective?
This is Corporal Smith at the time.
Okay.
He was the first detective on the case.
Let's concentrate on your contact with Austin Ford. Were there, I guess, events that were scheduled by the family after you found out about Tori's death?
Yes.
What was the first of them?
The first event was a virtual candlelight visual we had for her.
Where was that held?
In Yellow River Park, where they said she was found at the tree.
Did you tell her friends about it?
Yes. And a lot of her friends was putting it out on social media for me and things of that sort. And of course, I told him about it.
Did he go?
No, he didn't.
Did he say why he didn't go?
When he came over to my mother-in-law's house, him and his mother came. He was like, no, I can't come this time because I have to go to a football game or something like that. I'm like, football game? Like, okay, whatever. And his mom was like, he's not ready to come out right now. It's too soon for him to come out. And he was like, well, I don't want to be a green bean. Like, what are you talking about, a green bean? You know, I don't want the guys that hurt Tori come looking for me. I'm like, why do you come looking for you? What are you talking about? He was just confusing me. He was just acting weird and saying crazy things like somebody's gonna come looking for him because they hurt Tori. And like, why would he come looking for you? You know, it just wasn't. I just left it alone.
So you held the vigil under the tree where Tori was found. But
yes.
The defendant, who was supposedly her friend, did not come.
No, he didn't come.
Was the vigil before or after Tori's funeral?
It was before.
Obviously, you held a funeral for Tori.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Did you notify the defendant of it?
Yes.
Did he attend?
Yes.
Did you have any contact with him at the funeral?
At the funeral, after the funeral, I seen him after we did a celebration of life for Tori, a second line, New Orleans style second line, because we're from New Orleans. And at the end, he came up to me, he hugged me and embraced me, you know, saying I'm so sorry, you know, and all this, you know, yeah, we was just having a moment at that time.
Was that between Tori's funeral and now, was that the last contact you had with the defendant?
No, I spoke with him after the funeral several times, but I had another event for her. Her birthday was in September, so we had another party for her celebration. He didn't attend that either, but I was talking to him after the funeral.
Okay. At any point, did he tell you anything about what happened to Tori?
No.
At any point, did he, I guess, shed any light upon her death?
No.
Did he ever tell you that he had been there at the time that she died?
No.
Now, you also, there was also, when you reported Tori, well, did you report Tori missing?
Yes, I did.
Who'd you report her missing to?
I called DeKalb County Police because we live in DeKalb County to report her missing on Wednesday afternoon.
Did you also, I'm sorry.
It was July 28th. I reported her missing.
Did you also at some point report to police that your firearm was missing?
Yes, I notified the detective when the Gwinnett detectives when they came over to tell me what happened to Tori. At the time, I notified them about it. But that's when I really noticed it was missing.
Did you know what happened to it?
No.
To show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 3, 4, and 5. You recognize these?
Yes.
What
Thank
is
you
State's
so
Exhibit
much.
3?
That was
Thank
the
you so
casing
much,
my gun
Advocate.
was in, or what I bought it in.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of the gun case that your firearm was in?
Yes.
What is State's Exhibit 4?
It's the receipt from the location I purchased it from.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of that receipt?
Yes.
Cha-ching.
And State's Exhibit 5? You recognize it?
Yes.
What's State's Exhibit 5?
Some bullets.
Were those the rounds that were located inside the gun case that you had?
I think so, yes.
Your Honor, the state would tender States 3, 4, and 5.
States 3, 4, and 5 are admitted without objection.
Do you recall what make and model gun it was?
It was a SIG compact.
Showing you State's Exhibit 3 is being published to the jury. This is the gun case. Is a yellow band. It says currently upside down, the P365 10+1. Is that the model of gun that you have?
Yes.
And is that a secondary magazine for it?
Correct.
This is State's Exhibit 4. This is the receipt for the gun that you bought.
Yes.
And does it show that you purchased a 6 Sauer P365 9mm?
Correct.
Did you know what happened to that gun?
No.
Did you ever see Tori with that gun?
No.
Do you know if the defendant has ever been in your house?
Yes.
Has he?
Yes, yes.
Was this prior to Tori's death?
When you say prior, you mean?
Before?
Yes.
On July 27th, were you home all day?
No.
Did you have your gun with you?
No.
At any point, did you ever give the defendant permission to do anything with your gun?
No.
Did you ever give him permission to touch your gun?
No.
And the defendant, well, let me ask you this. Is Tori's alleged friend Austin Ford in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
Identify him, please.
He's right there with the gray suit on.
That's all the questions I have at this time.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination from the defense.
If I ask you a question that you don't understand, you just let me know, and then I'll try to rephrase it so that you and I are on the same page. Okay? Let me start here. What day did you feel like Tori was missing?
Well, July 27th to the 28th.
July 27th to the 28th. And she was living with you at the time. Is that right?
Correct.
She always lived with you. Is that right?
Yes, for the most part. Yeah, for the most part, yes.
In between the time she graduated in 2020, when COVID had just first started, and the time of her death in 2021, she lived with you during that time. Is that right?
Yes.
So was it the morning of the 28th when you didn't see her that you felt something was wrong, or was it the night before on the 27th?
The night before, going into the 28th.
Going into the 28th. And when did you first learn that Tori had been located?
Thursday, on the 29th of July.
And when did you first discover that your gun was missing?
Actually, that morning of the 29th.
Okay, so was it before you learned that Tori had been discovered, that you discovered your gun missing?
Yes, that morning, yes. 'Cause I was getting ready to go out looking for her again, so I wanted to bring it along with me.
Okay, good. So you were going to go out looking for Tori. You went to get your gun, and at that point in time, you saw that your gun was missing. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, and I'm going to show you what's been marked Stacy Exhibit 3. Was this where your gun was normally kept in this case?
No.
All right. Did that case house your gun at some point in time when the gun was purchased?
When it was purchased, yes.
When it was purchased. And typically, did you keep your gun in a holster or did you keep it in that case?
In a holster.
In the holster. And typically, did you keep your gun by your bed? Where did you typically keep your gun?
Most times I used to carry it with me because I have a license to carry. Most of them I carry it with me. So sometimes I leave my purse or I'm home. It might still be in my purse or whatever.
All right. Do you recall the last time you actually saw the gun?
Yes.
When was that?
It was around July the 19th or 20th.
July 19th or 20th of 2021.
Correct.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. July 19th of 2021. Had Austin Ford been in your house at all in July of 2021?
It's a possibility he has because he always come over when we're not there.
Okay. Were you out of town in between July 19th and July 28th of 2021 when Tori died at the park?
Yes, I was out of town previously.
All right. And did Austin Ford habitually come to your house or come into your house when you weren't there?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Do you recall at a prior hearing indicating under oath that Austin Ford rarely came to your house? He normally would stay at the corner and Tori would go out and meet him. Do you recall saying that at a prior hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
He don't come there when we're there. He come mostly when we're not there.
Okay.
And if he come to the house, they'll go outside and chill outside or whatever, walk up the street or go somewhere together.
All right. So if I understand your testimony here today in front of the jury, you were out of town between July 20th and July the 28th. Is that right?
No, I went out of town. It was that weekend. Whatever that weekend. I want to say that was July 17th. I was in New Orleans. Something like that.
Okay.
We came back around the 19th.
All right. Did you have the gun in your possession when you were in New Orleans?
Correct.
Okay. So the gun was in your possession on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. When you got back from New Orleans, where did you place the gun?
It was still in my bag, I think. In my bag I brought.
In your bag. And was your bag typically kept in the car? Did you typically bring your bag into the house from the car?
In the house.
Okay.
It was my travel bag.
I got you. July 19th, you return from New Orleans. You have your travel bag. Your gun is in your bag. Got it. Did you then go back out of town after July 19th?
No.
Okay. So between July 19th, when you bring the travel bag in with the gun, and July 28th, when Tori is shot, Austin Ford is not in your home. Is that fair to say?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, let me take a step back. Did you go out of town after you came back in from New Orleans on July 19th of 2021? Did you go back out again?
I don't have to go out of town for him to come over. No, I don't have to be home when he come over. I don't necessarily be out of town when he comes over. He comes over when I'm not home.
Okay, I want to understand a few things. In between July 19th, 2021 and July 28th, 2021, when Tori was located at Yellow River Park, were you working full time?
Yes.
Okay, and so you would leave the house when you were working, is that right?
At that time, I was working from home.
Right, because that was in the middle of COVID, right?
Yeah, you asking me a question? Yes, I guess.
So July of 2021, we're in COVID at that time. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, and so you're working at home, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just trying to nail this thing down. You come back from out of town. You have your gun, July 19, 2021. You recall last seeing the gun, July 19, 2021, correct?
Correct.
And in the next 9 days, you don't go back out of town and you're working from home, correct?
Yes.
Right. And you can't tell the jury that Austin Ford at any time in those 9 days came to your home. Is that fair to say?
No, because I don't be at home all day long. And he did come to our house, and within that time, he came on the outside. He didn't come inside. When I was there, he came.
Yes, ma'am. I guess the prosecutors asked certain questions about whether or not Austin Ford may have been inside your home and taken your gun. That's really what I'm asking about. Do you understand that?
Okay,
Okay, you came back from New Orleans on the 19th of July, 2021, correct?
okay,
You
yes,
had your gun with you, right?
yes,
And Tori comes up shot July 28th, 2021 at Yellow River Park. Is that right?
yes.
In those
She was
9,
found on the 20th, yeah.
right. In those 9 days, in between the time you return from New Orleans and the time Tori is shot, you are working from home, correct?
Yes, and that's only in the early morning.
Okay, and then afternoon, what are you doing?
Whatever, running errands, going out.
Okay,
I don't stay. I'm not a homebody, so I work in the morning. I do whatever I have to do for the day.
I understand, ma'am. But we're still talking about July 2021 in the middle of COVID, correct? You're not going to tell the jury that while there were restrictions in DeKalb County about moving around, you were just out and about 6, 7, 8 hours a day in DeKalb County in July 2021. You're not going to tell the jury that, are you?
Yes, I am, because around that time we were able to go. People was going out more, shopping more. Everything was like almost back to normal.
Okay, so if I understand your testimony correctly, in the 9 days when you returned from New Orleans and in between the time you returned from New Orleans and the time that Tori is shot, your testimony is Austin Ford could have come to your home and taken your gun. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay, there we are. Do you typically keep the gun by your bedside at all?
I do keep it at my bedside sometimes, not all the time.
Okay, not all the time. And so in the 9 days when you're out and about, you're not carrying it with you in those 9 days. Is that right?
No,
And you're
wasn't
not
carrying.
keeping it by your bedside. Is that right?
No,
Right. And even though Tori didn't tell you that Austin had been at the house and you don't have any evidence that Austin had been at the house, your position today is Austin might have been at the house and might have taken a gun. Is that right?
typically she don't tell me that he's at the house. They just come over. So yes,
I got you. Do you have any sort of security ring camera or anything like that at your house?
no, my neighbor does.
Okay, the neighbor does. Did the neighbor show you any ring camera that showed Austin pulling up in a car and coming into your home anytime in the 9 days in between the time you returned from New Orleans and the time that Tori was found dead?
I didn't check the ring camera for those days, and I asked him. And only time I checked the ring camera was when we discovered that she wasn't here anymore, to see did she actually return back home that night or whatever. And he did come by our house on the 27th, look for Tori several times.
Okay,
And my
good.
husband caught him outside. He was pulling up, saw him outside, and he came prior to that. He said, looking for Tori.
Yes, ma'am. And he was on the ring camera then, correct? Or you don't know?
I didn't look back for the time
Okay,
frame.
that's
I just
fine.
looked for the time frame that the last time I seen her.
Yes, and after Tori, after the police discovered Tori deceased, and after you had determined that Austin Ford had lied to you, you didn't follow up with your neighbor to see if Austin Ford had been at your house in the 9 days prior to Tori's disappearance. Is that right?
Well, I didn't know he did anything to her. I just said he's seen her. Anything to go look back for that for him.
You understand at some point in time, the detective in the case told you that she's taking warrants against Austin Ford. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall when that happened?
Yes, that was Good Friday of 22, April 15th, 22.
April 15th, 2022. In between April 15th and 2022 and today, did you ever go talk to the neighbor to see if the neighbor had ring camera footage of Austin Ford coming to your home in the 9 days prior to Tori's disappearance?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't my job to do that. I mean, I
No,
thought the detective would work on that part. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yes, I understand that, ma'am.
I was in shock to find out it was him. So
Yes, ma'am. And you find out in April of 2022, correct?
correct,
Okay, good. So you're still trying to figure out what happened, are you not?
correct.
Okay, and so when we start talking about how the gun left your home, you don't know how your gun left your home. Is that right?
Correct.
You just know it was last in your home on July 19, 2021. Is that right?
That's why I last put my eyes on it. Yes.
Okay, when you last put your eyes on it. So just in an effort to figure out if Tori took the gun or if Austin was inside your home in the 9 days, did you ever ask a neighbor if they saw anything or if the ring camera captured anything?
Back in April 22, when I found out they put warrants out.
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Anytime after
no,
that?
I didn't.
Okay. Is that the only gun that you purchased in the last 3 years? The gun that was in that case?
Yes.
All right. And the type of ammunition, State's exhibit number 5, is this the type of, are these the rounds that were inside of the, is that the ammunition that was inside of the gun case?
Yes.
And you gave the case and the ammunition to the police, is that right?
Correct.
All right. Were you familiar with the type of rounds those were when you gave those rounds to the police, the ammunition to the police?
No.
Okay, do you recall if you gave that to the original investigator, Detective Smith, or if you gave that to someone else, the ammunition along with the gun case?
The Corporal Smith.
Corporal Smith. Were there letters that you also gave to Corporal Smith when Corporal Smith came to the house?
Letters I gave him. He went into her room and collected her journals.
Okay, so
It was separate sheets of journals that she was journaling.
all right, Detective Smith collected any correspondence that he thought was relevant from Tori's room. Is that right?
He collected everything, yeah.
Did he show you any of the letters or the diaries that he collected from Tori's room?
I saw some of them. It was basically she was journaling to God, praying to God. She journaled when she prayed to God, and she journaled to God when she just reading or whatever. It was just basically journal issues. I didn't read all of them.
Okay. Did you see anything in the journal that would have led you to believe that she and Austin weren't best friends in July of 2021?
Well, the journal wasn't about her best friends or anything like that. It was just, like I said, she was just praying to God and stuff like that. She prayed by writing it.
I understand. Did you understand my question?
Yes.
My question was there anything in the journal that would indicate that she and Austin were not best friends in July of 2021?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it. If you can answer that question, ma'am, please do so.
I didn't read everything. So what I read was only about God. That's all.
Okay. Were Tori and Austin best friends in July of 2021?
They were friends, whatever.
Okay. They weren't. You wouldn't describe them as best friends. Is that right?
Absolutely not. She may thought there was more than just friends or whatever. She probably considered him as a friend, a friend or whatever, but I don't consider him that.
Ma'am, we're not talking about what you may have considered. We're talking about your daughter in terms of the contact that she had and how she described Austin and talked about Austin. Was Austin and Tori best friends in July of 2021?
They were close friends.
Okay. And how long had they been close friends?
Maybe like 4 to 5 years.
Okay, all through high school, correct?
Not all through high school, but like 4 or 5 years.
All right, Tori had just graduated
in 2020.
In 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay, she only spent 4 years in high school, correct?
Yes, but she met him at Stevenson, not at Arabia. She went to high school in Arabia Mountain to high school.
Okay.
But she met him when she went to Stevenson.
Okay, and what year was that? What year did she start Stevenson?
It had to be like 2018, I think.
Okay, so she met him.
2018.
Okay, she met him in 2018 and she died in 2021. That would have only been 3 years. Yet you said they were friends for 5 years.
Like 4 to 5 years, yeah, something like that.
Got you. She graduated in 2020, did she not?
Tori graduated in 2020.
2020 from Stevenson High School, is that right?
Correct.
And at the time, after she graduated, was she working?
After she graduated, she did work some.
What type of work did she do?
But prior to graduation, she was working in a mall, at a clothing store.
Okay.
And another location in the mall.
Okay. And then in 2020, I understand it was COVID when she graduated in May of 2020, correct?
Correct.
I understand it was COVID going on at the time, but was she working at all in 2020?
No, there wasn't working. The mall was closed, so no.
Okay, so when COVID hit Georgia and things started shutting down, Tori was sort of at the house.
Yes, or about her grandmother or whatever. Yes.
And how far?
Thank you, Sharon. Ken Sharp.
Less than 10 minutes.
So between May of 2020 and December of 2020, Tori was sort of in between your house and her grandmother's house. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. 2026 in 2016, when Tori was a freshman, did she have a suicidal ideation issue that put her in the hospital?
Well, can you explain what that means?
I'm gonna rephrase the question. In 2016, was Tori hospitalized?
Hospitalized. There was an incident where we took her to the hospital.
Okay, was she held for more than 24 hours?
But we were there waiting. We're just waiting, typically waiting. I can't remember how long it was. It was a long time though.
Okay, so you don't remember her actually being checked into the hospital, is that right?
Well, it was seeing her, yes, it was seeing her at the hospital, local hospital, the children's hospital, yeah.
Okay, well, let me take a step back. You end up taking Tori to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
Did you end up leaving Tori at the hospital? Did they keep her at the hospital?
I didn't leave her at the hospital, no.
Okay, when you're there at the hospital and the hospital's doing their examination, what are they examining her for? What's the issue that had you taking her to the hospital?
Well, she wasn't feeling good. She made a statement saying that she took some medicine or whatever, so they was checking her out for that.
Okay, so it was a physical issue that she was there for. She was there for a physical issue like a stomach ache, is that right? In 2016?
I can't recall. It was stomach. I can't remember if it was the stomach or not, but she wasn't feeling good. She took some medicine or whatever, made a statement about taking some medicine. So we were concerned parents. So we took her to the doctor to see what was going on.
Okay, so it wasn't any issue about she may have taken any sort of drugs or anything like that. That
Oh, no.
wasn't the issue in 2016, is that right?
No, no.
Okay, and although you testified, do you recall testifying at a prior hearing that she was checked into the hospital in 2016?
Check in?
Check
I mean,
in.
I'm just, you asked me, no, and she went to the hospital.
All right, did she go to the hospital again during all of the time that she was in high school?
For
whatever reason.
No,
For whatever
no.
reason. So prior to her death, the only time Tori had went to the hospital was 2016 when you took her to the hospital. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, but you don't recall exactly what the issue was other than her saying she didn't feel well in 2016. Is that right?
Yeah, she made a statement. She wasn't feeling well. She took some medicine.
Okay, and when you say she took some medicine, she took medicine that was prescribed to her?
I'm not sure. She didn't say it was. I don't know what medicine she took.
Okay, so Tori took some medicine, wasn't feeling well, and then you took her to the hospital, but you don't know where she got the medicine from that she took. Is that right?
She made a statement saying she took some medicine. Come to find out it wasn't nothing. So
Okay, you say it wasn't nothing, but I'm just trying to understand. It wasn't medicine that you and her family had taken her to get a prescription for prior to you going to the hospital, was it?
no,
Okay, so the first time that you had ever heard that Tori had consumed any medicine in 2016 is when Tori says she's not feeling well and she needs to go to the hospital. Is that right?
she said she wasn't feeling well, so we took her to the hospital to see what was going on.
Right, but the reason she wasn't feeling well is she had taken some medication that wasn't prescribed to her. Is that right?
She stated that she took some medicine.
Okay, but you don't know if she actually took that medicine. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and you don't recall what the actual issue was, a headache, stomach ache, or anything like that you took her to the hospital for. Is that right?
She said she wasn't feeling well.
Okay, I
She said
got
she
you.
took some medicine. I don't know if she
I
was.
got you. How many times did you speak to Austin Ford after Tori died?
I can't recall. We spoke numerous times.
Okay, did he ever appear when he was talking to you to be under the influence of any drugs, medicine, or alcohol?
No,
Okay, when he attended the funeral, but not the vigil. Is that right?
correct.
Okay, and although as you described it, he was talking weird, he didn't appear to be under the influence of any drugs, medicine, or alcohol. Is that right?
No,
And when he attended the funeral, was his mother with him?
yes.
Okay, so it was Austin Ford and his mother that came to the funeral. Is that right?
And someone else because they signed her book.
Okay,
And his book.
and was that the last time you saw Austin Ford face to face?
No.
When did you see Austin Ford after that face to face?
When I was in his neighborhood, passing out flyers of Tori, putting the flyers in the neighborhood.
Okay, and at that time, did you have a chance to speak to him?
Yes.
All right, did he appear to be under the influence of drugs, medicine, alcohol at that time?
No.
Had you ever seen Austin Ford in the times that he had visited your home under the influence of any drugs, medicine, alcohol?
What was the question?
The question was, at any point in time when Austin Ford came to your home in the either 3, 4, or 5 years when he knew Tori, did you ever see him under the influence of any drugs, medicine, or alcohol?
No.
Thank you very much. No further questions, Judge.
Be direct from the state.
I think there was some confusion about being checked into the hospital and being admitted. So let me ask you this. Did you take Tori to the hospital?
Yes.
Did you leave her there?
No.
Did she spend the night there in a room where she had a doctor or nurse assigned to her and had to be released by a doctor before she could leave?
No.
In the letters that you read where you said Tori was praying to God in the letters, did any of those letters mention hurting herself?
No.
Did they ever mention a gun?
Absolutely
kind?
not. No.
Did they mention finding someone to hurt her?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever really give a formal interview to Corporal Smith about Tori?
No.
When did you first talk to Corporal Smith about what had happened to Tori?
It was the day he came to tell us that she wasn't here anymore.
Was that the day you gave him the gun case?
Yes.
At any point, did you really talk to him about her life, about what was going on with her at the time, as far as you knew?
No. He didn't ask me anything like that. So
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Be cross.
Very briefly, Ms. Lang, I thought you testified earlier that you didn't read all of the stuff that Detective Smith collected from your daughter's bedroom. Did you testify to that?
I didn't read everything.
That's correct.
I didn't read everything. No, it was
Right.
too much stuff to read. So
Right. So when you answer the prosecutor's questions that you didn't see anything in the letters or the diary about hurting herself, you didn't read everything in the letters and the diaries.
My
right?
answer was that what I read didn't indicate that she seen a gun, wanted a gun, or wanted to hurt herself. That's what I read. So
And that's fair enough. And what I'm trying to understand is when, based on what Detective Smith had collected, did you read 90% of what he had collected or 10% of what he had collected from your daughter's bedroom, her correspondence, her thoughts?
no, I didn't read 90% of it. No.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Judge.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, you can step down, please. Watch your step.
Okay. Let me see. Hold on. I downloaded this so that we
And
could
did you and your bride
move, oops, faster through it, but I have to make sure I'm getting to the right
All
spots.
right, just come forward, Mr. Young, please, all the way up front. When you come around, there are a couple of steps, so please watch your step for me coming up. If you can be seated comfortably and pull yourself right in front of those microphones for me, please.
Sir, raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Theodore Young.
Mr. Young, in what area of Gwinnett County do you live?
South.
Do you live near Yellow River Park?
Yes.
Are you familiar with Yellow River Park?
Yes.
Why are you familiar with Yellow River Park?
I've been going over there for about 20 some years.
What do you do when you go to Yellow River Park?
Oh, usually walk.
They have a walking trail there?
Yes, sir.
When do you typically walk?
Most times 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30.
In July of 2021, were you taking those walks in the morning?
Yes, sir.
Did you take them alone?
No,
Who did you walk with?
my wife.
How long have you been married?
How long have I been married?
Yes, sir.
50 years.
And did you
Wow.
and your bride of 50 years go for a walk on the 28th of July, 2021?
20th of July?
Yes.
No.
Let me ask you a different question. Is there a walk in late July where you noticed something that was not typical of every other one?
Yes.
What was that? What was it that you noticed that was not the usual thing?
There's a body up beside the tree.
Tell me how you came to know that, how you saw it.
Well, saw it in the parking lot and walked towards the north end of the park. And there's something underneath the tree. So I went over to look at it and found out there's a body laying there. And I asked the person there, "Are you okay?" No response. And that's when I called 911. And Gwinnett County Police come and they took the information and told me to leave.
Did you touch the body?
No,
Did you move anything around the body?
no,
Did you take anything away from the area in which the body was found?
no,
Did you see anything on the ground around the body?
no.
Do you know if Yellow River Park is in Gwinnett County?
Yes, it is.
That's all the questions I have. Mr. Young.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Young, I only have a few questions. Thank you. You phoned the police about 6:20 a.m. Is that right?
Parking at it.
About 6:20 a.m. And how long was it before the police arrived?
Probably the matter of maybe, no less than 12 minutes, 12
Oh.
minutes, 15 minutes, something like that.
Okay, somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes.
Yes,
And after you phoned the police, did you sort of stay in that area until they arrived?
yes, let them know about where I was located in the park. This is a pretty big size park.
Got you. And after you phoned the police and the police indicated that they were on their way, did you ever get any closer to the body?
No,
All right. And in terms of proximity, what's the closest you would estimate that you ever came to the body?
maybe 2.5 to 3 feet.
2.5 to 3 feet. Do you recall ever seeing any shell casings, the discharge from a firearm?
No,
Okay. Do you recall ever hearing any metal clinking as you sort of move towards the body?
no.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, if you'll watch your step coming down, you are free to leave.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Please watch your step.
So the stuff that I had read,
All right, we're gonna take our mid-morning recess at this point.
the stuff that I had read said Stone Mountain Park. But Yellow River Park is in Stone Mountain, but it's not in Stone Mountain Park. It's right down the road from Stone Mountain Park. So if they found her body in Yellow River Park, that actually makes a little bit more sense, because I was wondering how they got into Stone Mountain Park. Just Stone Mountain Park isn't just like a regular park that you can just go to. You have to go through, like, there's an entrance where you have to pay to get in and stuff. So I was wondering how they would have done that, but that makes sense. If it was Yellow River Park, that's in Stone Mountain, but it's not in Stone Mountain Park. So all right, let's get the next day pulled up.
Officer Remy, we're not the only
Oops.
officers that respond.
Oops.
Police department were tasked with supervising. At the time, what were your
Not the next day. This is after the lunch break. Make sure CC is still on.
All right, I'll have the state call your next witness, please.
Casey Smith?
Okay, on the stand,
Position yourself in front of the microphones, please.
Casey Smith.
Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
Casey Smith.
How are you employed now?
I work from home for a consulting company
In July of 2021, how were you employed?
by the Gwinnett County Police Department.
At the time, what were your duties with the Gwinnett County Police Department?
I was a police officer, so I was on patrol assigned to the South Precinct day shift.
Did you wear a uniform and drive a marked vehicle?
I did.
And I guess what would be the day-to-day life of a patrol officer assigned to that precinct?
Show up and get dispatched to any calls that come through the radio, respond to them and handle them accordingly.
And does that vary from call to call, time to time?
Yep, just depending on what you get.
Did you get a call relating to Yellow River Park around 6:30 on the morning of July 28th, 2021?
I did.
What was that call?
It was an unknown medical, I believe. That's just kind of like a blanket call type for when we don't necessarily know exactly what's going on based on the information we have from who's calling in.
So do you talk directly to the person calling in, or do you talk to dispatch?
I talked to dispatch.
And I guess until certain determinations have been made, you'll get a call like unknown medical until you go there and discover what it really is.
Yes.
Were you by yourself on that morning?
I was not. I was a field training officer at that time, and I was training someone that was on their last phase of training. So I was actually riding along with them. They were driving.
So a field training officer does
Once you graduate the academy, you're not just left to your own devices. There's, with Gwinnett County, there's 3 different phases. Each phase is so many weeks long, so many shifts. And this person was on their 3rd phase. And basically, it's just kind of a monitoring, shadowing phase just to help the transition from the academy to actually being on the road as a police officer.
And so you, as a more experienced officer, were tasked with supervising, do you remember the officer's name?
Officer Remy.
Was supervising Officer Remy during her 3rd shift.
Yes, I was.
But even as field training officer, do you still perform your duties rather than just stand around and supervise?
Very much so, yes.
So it's I guess a working lesson for Officer Remy.
Yeah, so by 3rd phase, they're usually handling a lot of things on their own, and we're just kind of there to guide them or help them where they need, and make sure that, procedurally everything is done as needed. If something comes up that they haven't done before, then, it may be a discretion thing where I were to take the lead and then she learn from that. It's just all dependent on the call.
So you're working together as much as you teaching her?
Yeah, on third phase, it's essentially like a two-man unit responding to calls instead of a single-man unit.
Now let's go back to this call at 6:30 a.m. on
I wish you would stand by the mic.
28th, 2021. What did you do after you got the unknown medical call at Miller?
With that and what was in, what information we had, we were prepared to show up and render aid to this person based on the information we had. We had very little information to go off of. And once we arrived, then we assessed the situation to see that it was different than as called in.
Did you go there? So you might have taken medical equipment and other things with you. You just didn't know what you were going to buy.
Yes, I do believe actually, I can't remember if it was myself or Officer Remy, but we did have the AED with us, which is like a defibrillator in case if someone's in cardiac arrest, in case if, there was some need for that, because the information that we had, she wasn't closely accessible, I guess you could say, so we wouldn't have had time to go back to the car to get that, so we had it while we responded.
Was there an address associated with the location you responded to?
I do believe it's just the main address of Yellow River Park. I just know where Yellow River Park is. I don't know the exact address.
The location that you responded to, though, on the street and the park itself, are those in Gwinnett County?
Yes.
What did you find when you got there?
An unconscious female on her back, underneath a tree.
What did you do after seeing that?
From my experience in training, I was pretty sure that she was deceased at the time of our arrival. But since I'm not a medical professional, we called for the fire department to make that official determination just to make sure.
In your role as a patrol officer for the Glen County Police Department, was it your job to determine whether or not a person was alive?
It was not.
Do you have any specific training in that area?
No.
And that's why you called the fire department?
Yes.
On your approach to this young woman, did you see anything that you believe to be evidential, of note, evidentially?
Not initially.
Did you see anyone see anything that was?
Yeah, when we arrived, in addition to seeing the female laying on the ground on her back, there was a male and a female, and they were actually the two people that had called 911 and spoke with dispatch, giving us the information. And I did make contact with them, but seeing the scene in order to secure it, just in case if there was something that needed to be treated like a crime scene, I did have them go back to the parking lot where an officer eventually met with them to get their information and their story.
At some point, did you cordon off or rope off or tape off the scene or part of the scene?
We did, yes.
Were you wearing a department-issued body cam?
I was.
Was it functioning?
It was.
Did you turn it on?
I did.
Have you reviewed the video from that body cam?
I have.
Welcome, Shahina. Shahina. Welcome to the family.
To show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 6. You recognize State's Exhibit 6?
I do.
How do you recognize State's Exhibit number 6?
From my initials and having viewed that as being my body cam footage.
Is it a thumb drive that contains your body cam footage?
Yes, correct.
Is that footage true and accurate?
It is.
Has it been altered in any way?
No.
You understand what tender State's Exhibit number 6?
All right, state 6 is admitted without objection.
Now, understanding that a body cam is not eyes, do you remember where you had positioned your body cam when you were on patrol?
I believe it was on like my lapel area.
So basically, like on your shoulder, like a parrot.
Yes.
And where you turn, the body cam turns.
My body.
Your shoulder turns,
Mhm.
the body cam turns. So if you turned your head and the body cam's still looking that way, body cam's just gonna be looking that way.
Correct.
So the body cam's high definition?
I'm not sure.
Suffice it to say, are human eyes better than the body cam?
It's possible.
Can I just tell me the published part of State's Exhibit 6?
Does it contain audio and video?
It does contain audio and video.
All right, I'm going to give a preliminary instruction. Members of the jury, you are about to see and hear a video and audio recording of body cam footage of officer declarations or statements of the officers are not evidence. You may now publish.
The beginning of the zero, the time mark is 00:00.
Just a warning. I don't know what's in this body cam stuff.
And why is
Sorry.
there silence at this point?
Trigger warning.
So the way the body cams work is once you turn them on, it actually captures the previous 30 seconds prior to you turning it on. So the first 30 seconds have no sound, then it turns on, you hear the click, and then you'll hear sound.
And you can look here as well.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And you found it on your shoulder, that's why the horizon is recorded.
241 radio.
Yes.
So guys, I see where they go 10-7. Our car's parked on the street. The closest and easiest entrance is from where we walked in. Yeah, I see her. You guys just hang out back over here real quick. Huh? Yeah, I know. Just hang out back here in case if there's something going on, okay?
Who you're talking to there, was that the older couple who had found the young lady under the tree?
Yes.
And that was the point where you set them off of the scene so they could be interviewed, but so they wouldn't disturb any evidence?
Yeah, the walking path goes back to the parking lot, and I had an officer eventually headed that way to talk with them.
Because you and Officer Remy were not the only officers to respond, were you?
No. Eventually there were several other officers.
Because when there is, I guess when a person has been found dead, there is a necessary larger response from police.
Yes.
Okay, warning, warning, warning. You don't want to see this. Warning, warning.
You appear to have reached down and touched the hand. Why did you do that? What were you trying to accomplish?
Just seeing if there was a pulse. Also, when I touched her, I could feel if she was going to be warm or cold, and she was cold.
And obviously, was there a pulse?
There was not.
241 to radio. Looks like signal 48. Gonna 10-12 for FD to confirm. She's cold. All right. Let's get some crime scene tape.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Now, you referred earlier to calling the fire department. Is that what you're referring to on your radio call when you said you were going to 1012 to FD to confirm?
Yeah, 1012 just stands for standby.
$241 to 230. 241. It's gonna look like some butt force trauma to the head.
The people who we see in front of the camera right now, is that Officer Remy and the couple who discovered her?
Yes.
Now you speculate on the video about what may have happened to this young lady. Did you know literally anything more than what we've seen at this point?
No.
And did you do any? Were you part of the longer investigation into her death and any subsequent investigation?
No.
Your job was find out what happened, secure the scene for detectives.
I'm sorry, if you could stand up and speak up. All right, it is a leading question, so I sustain. You can rephrase.
What was your role at this point in time?
As a patrol officer, we just arrive on scene and do an initial investigation. And with something like this, obviously more resources are called in to take control.
10-4. Can we get a unit that has crime scene tape? All right, if you guys don't mind, just going back to the parking lot for me, we'll just hang out and we'll have some officers meet with you, okay? Thank you, guys. All right. So she is obviously, going to turn her body cam on. No, you're good. So she's obviously 48. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have to get their information because they were in the area of the crime scene when they found her.
You want me to?
We need to stay here. But Let's just wait. So Hoskins gets here and start setting up crime scene tape. We're gonna start out big. So she's in underwear and slides. So she's in some comfy clothes. People do come to the park to do. So, but she has had to be here for a minute. Yeah.
Now, in as much as you were close enough to the body to touch it, what condition was it in, based on what you could see?
The body?
Yes. What condition was she in? Was she wet? Was she dry? What did you physically see, especially when you leaned over close enough to check for a pulse?
So she was in like male boxers and a t-shirt. When I touched her, her body was cold, but it was dry, but there was like dew on the ground. It was July, it was humid and hot. Pretty sure that it might have rained or stormed the night before, but I'm not positive. But the ground was wet, but she was dry.
Can I tell if it's blunt force or if it's a gunshot? I don't see a weapon, but the way she fell, like if she fell like this, she was standing when she fell. I think someone else had to have done this to her. Well, here you go. Last key. Good Lord.
I was trying to look at the ground, but
So it's going to be our best place to look. See if anybody got rid of anything.
Now, you kind of made the comment on camera, but why would you look in garbage cans?
I mean, at this point, it was considered a crime scene. So for initial investigation, you're just looking for anything that might be evidence. And at this point, we don't know what exactly is evidence and what's not evidence. So anything in and around the body would be looked at for possible evidence.
Did you find anything in the trash cans that you thought might be possible evidence?
No, they were almost empty.
The thing that sucks is I think it rained last night. She's not wet though. She's dry.
but then she's also under the tree a little bit.
Yeah,
She is pretty dry.
she's cold. I can like feel it through my gloves. Where's Hoskins at? There's like an opening in the gate right there. That's why. Okay.
Oh, look, bullet.
Casing?
Casing. Yep.
We're at here. Right there. Oh, okay. Hold on.
I didn't want to touch it.
No, what we're gonna do, if you sort of it, so no one steps on it. And I'm gonna put a stick through it. That's what I'm saying, someone had to shoot her like that.
Yeah.
But she fell straight back.
So what we witnessed was something a little attacked, but a piece of paper went down on the ground. Why?
So at that point, we found a piece of evidence. Crime scene's not there yet. Other people are going to be showing up. We don't want that piece of evidence to get lost. So we just put it there as a marker so everyone knows that there's something there.
And the body cam appeared to show Officer Remy in the moment in which it was noticed. Did either of you touch it as far as you know?
Not to my knowledge.
Once it was marked with the piece of paper, did you avoid being around it so as to disturb it?
Correct.
Yep. Good find. Good job. That's what I'm saying. We don't want to.
I try not to get too close just in case there's like footprints or stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to like walk around it too much. Just want to look in that trash can.
Yeah, they said she's wearing like boxer shorts.
Hey, you hang out right here. I'm gonna let them know that there's an opening right here. Oh. Hey, Lasky.
Who was Lasky?
She was my corporal at the time, so like a senior officer.
Where's Hoskins? Okay, can someone meet with the complainant and get their 39? We have them walk away. Okay, you got crime scene tape, but you don't have, she doesn't have any. Okay,
You have her go ahead, have somebody, minimal, do a crime scene log. Let me take a look.
yeah, it's just the tubeless right now, so I was just, she found the shell casing.
Okay.
Looks like she was shot standing up because she's laying like this. She's cold and stiff. Blood out of her nose, blood out of her ears, back of the head. She doesn't look wet, but she's been there for a minute, but she's 48, and it's just like it's gonna be a place setting.
Sorry.
All right, so a few things. A couple of times you mentioned that she's obviously 48. What's that mean?
So there we have codes and signals. Signal 48 means person dead.
You mentioned going back to the complainant to get their 39. What is a 39?
Signal 39 is information.
And this is you say this is obviously a 27 or apparently a 27 to Lasky. What is a 27?
A homicide.
Is it typical for police to speak in codes both on the radio and in person?
Correct, yes.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, good. This is what we asked for.
Sir! Sir! Can you give me a favor to go back that way, please? I need you to go back that way, please. Thank you. Where that piece of paper is. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. No ID, no gun, check the trash cans, nothing else really.
Radio.
Is Hoskins coming with the crime scene tape or not? Good morning. Well, got jinxed with the homicide call at roll call, and guess what we're on? Another one? Yeah.
Double, huh?
That's what it looked like, but I think it's a gunshot. And she fell in the back of her head, so all the blood is through there. No, because the shell casing was all the way right here. It looks like she got shot. Yeah.
You tell me not to walk somewhere. I won't.
Just let me make sure. Hey, Lasky, real quick for him to confirm 38.
Yeah.
What do we need?
We're just having one FD guy. We'll have the rest of them stay back. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have them stay over there.
Where's
You guys are good to stay back, so you guys don't have to come in the crime scene. We just need one person to confirm that they're dead.
Oh, okay.
So,
Gotcha.
but it looks like it's gonna be a homicide. So, yeah. So we just gotta get. So you guys don't have to get your names put on crime scene logs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just one. He took the initiative to walk up there first, so his name's going on the list. I'm gonna go grab that real quick so I can get his name. But. The paperwork. Very Hoskins. I don't have any of my stuff. I forget I'm not in my own car.
So that tree, there's a path over there, that's to that tree.
Yep.
Same thing over there.
Yeah, and I think someone's parked in the parking lot, blocking off the rest of that parking lot.
Okay.
Did someone get the 39 for the?
That's what Hoskins is doing right now.
Okay, cool.
And so at this point, are you going to proceed to take off the area and allow the other officers to do their jobs?
Yes.
Do you take any further active participation in the investigation into this young woman's death?
Other than there was a couple trash cans where I was putting up crime scene tape, I took a peek in those to see if there was anything. But other than that, once it was taped off, we were just waiting on detectives to show up and crime scene to show up.
Of course, did detectives show up and did crime scene show up?
Yes, they did.
As the initial responding officer, did you stay there for that?
Yes, I did.
I stopped the video at the 12 minutes and 35-second mark. And I think that's all the questions I have this time.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination from the defense.
All right.
All right, he uses the microphone.
You got married since then?
I
Okay,
have.
so let's call you by your right name. Give it to me.
I'll spell it. Krizbai. Krizbai.
Krizbai. Okay, that's easy enough, Miss Krizbai. Before the prosecutor shut off the video, I thought it said 10:50:42, as if it was like maybe 10 in the morning. Sometimes the times on the body cams aren't correct. Is that fair to say?
I'm not aware.
Okay, I guess so. So maybe this is a better question, Ms. Krizbai. Did you confirm that the time that was showing on your body cam was the correct time?
I would assume so.
Okay, good. So you recall arriving about what time?
I don't know exact time. I know that it was early in the morning. The dew was still on the ground, and the sun had just started coming up, I believe.
Okay, so if I would have told you that it may have been about 6:30 a.m., does that sound about the right time?
That sounds about right.
The sun hadn't risen enough July of 2021 to have burned the dew off the grass. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, and I have some questions about that. In terms of where the body was located underneath a tree. Is that right?
Yes.
No grass was underneath the tree. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Were you able to see any footprints headed towards or away from the tree in the grass that still had dew on it?
Not that I noticed.
All right. Was the roadway wet when you first arrived?
The roadway outside of Yellow River Park?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And were you and Officer Remy the first officers to arrive?
We were.
Okay. Were you in the same vehicle or a different vehicle?
We were in the same vehicle.
And I got the sense, not when the video was turned off, but when you first arrived, that the sun was just coming up. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it was still fairly early.
Just coming up. Okay. When did you leave the police force?
September of 2021.
Okay, about 2 months after this body cam. Is that right?
Yes.
And as of July of 2021, how long had you been an officer?
I graduated from the academy in April of 2019, so 3 years.
About 2019 to 2021.
That's about 2 years.
All right, 2 years. I got you. That's fine. We'll work it out. And was this the precinct that you were assigned to where Yellow River is located?
Yes.
Okay. Yellow River Park is located close to DeKalb County. Is that right?
It is.
Okay. So here's the real question: is all of Yellow River Park located in Gwinnett County?
That I'm not completely positive of.
Okay, that's fine. On the body cam, it appears that Officer Remy is the first person that locates any shell casings. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you recall approximately between you and Officer Remy the total number of shell casings that were located?
Between me and Officer Remy, only the one, I believe.
Only the one. And fair to say you didn't touch any of the shell casings. Is that right?
I did not.
And you only touched the body to the extent that you needed to determine if there was a pulse and the temperature of the body. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And the only place you recall touching the body was in the hand-wrist area. Is that fair to say?
The wrist, yes.
Wrist. Thank you very much, Ms. Krizbai.
Krizbai.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Be direct.
Briefly. I'm going to show you, I guess, the beginning of, still from the beginning of your body cam. It's at the 6-second mark in the video counting from 0. But the time shows the T 10:38:13Z. Is that necessarily the actual Eastern Daylight Time that is reflected in that time?
I'm unsure.
Do you know what that particular designation means?
I do not.
Did the call come in around 6:30 in the morning?
Yes.
Is that when you responded?
Yes.
I guess how would you describe the lighting conditions, the position of the sun as this still is showing?
It's still fairly early in the morning, close to dawn-ish time.
And defense counsel asked you about the condition of the roadway. Is the roadway shown in this still?
It is.
I guess how would you describe it?
It's partially wet, partially dry.
When you were assigned to this particular precinct, did they instruct you, or were you instructed on the boundaries of your precinct?
Yes.
Do they include the portion of Yellow River Park where Tori Lang's body was found?
Yes,
So Tori Lang, in fact found in Gwinnett County?
she was.
No further questions.
Recalls? No, thank you, Judge. All right, thank you. You can step down.
Thank you.
Who's your next witness?
Rachel Lasky?
About how long for that witness? Fairly quick?
Yes.
All right, call your next witness.
Rachel Lasky.
Does the audio get better the next day? It wasn't this bad earlier. It's like they forgot to turn one of the mics on.
All right, watch your step for me coming around, please. If you will get seated comfortably directly in front of those microphones for me, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Self you got.
I do.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
Rachel Lasky,
How are you employed?
Gwinnett County Police Department.
Are you a post-certified law enforcement officer?
I am.
How long have you been with Gwinnett County?
Since 2012.
And what is your current rank and assignment?
I am a sergeant with a special victims unit.
In July of 2021, how were you assigned?
I was a corporal at South Precinct in the Uniform Division.
And what is a corporal's role in the South? What's a corporal's role?
So I would respond to dispatched calls. I would assist younger officers in mentorship. I would train officers coming out of the academy as a field training officer. And if a supervisor was not at work, I would fill in as the acting sergeant.
Did you respond to a call or respond to a call from a colleague on the morning of July 28th, 2021 at Yellow River Park?
Yes, sir. That day I was acting as the acting sergeant.
And what was that call that you responded to?
There was a homicide call at Yellow River Park.
Did you respond to the scene?
Yes.
What did you do when you got there?
First, I went and got the information from the original officers that had arrived on scene. And then I started making phone calls after getting the information from them, contacted CSI, medical examiner, and homicide detectives.
Did you go on the scene yourself?
Yes, we allowed one firefighter to come onto the scene. He confirmed that the victim was in fact deceased. We relayed that information to radio, and then once I had spoken to the homicide detectives, they were requesting photographs.
I thought the
so I
same
began
thing.
taking photographs of the scene to send over to them.
They look so young. It makes me feel old.
Did you find anything of note during your time on that scene?
I did. So originally, prior to my arrival, one of the officers had located one spent shell casing, and that was already on the ground. It had been marked with a piece of notepad paper, white paper. As I was photographing the scene and the body to send those photos to the detective, I located a second spent shell casing.
And what did you do when you located it?
I photographed it and documented it through body cam and photographs to the detective.
Did you also mark it with a piece of paper?
I believe I did, yes, sir.
Were you wearing a department issued body cam?
Yes, sir.
Were you trained in how to operate it?
Yes,
Was it in fact working and on that day?
it was.
Have you reviewed the footage from that body cam?
I did.
I'm going to show you what is being marked as State's Exhibit 7.
Excuse me.
You recognize State's Exhibit 7?
Yes.
What is it?
That is the body worn camera from that day, from that specific call.
How do you know that it is that particular body cam?
It was reviewed and then marked with my initials.
And is the RL on the label your initials?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would tender State's Exhibit number 7, a thumb drive containing the body camera of Corporal Rachel Lasky.
All right, 7 is admitted without objection.
This time I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 7 or a portion thereof.
All right, let me give my precautionary instruction again to the jury. It has audio and video.
It does.
All right, members of the jury, you are about to see and hear a video and hear are considered.
I want to wait. Yeah, white paper is shell casing. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, second shell casing.
Okay. We tried to look for more, but we also weren't finding like.
No, you're good. That kind of disproves the potential of a 53.
Yeah. Especially, like, also the way she fell straight back. She
Yeah.
to herself, like, and fall in that way.
I mean, yeah, unless she was just like sitting on the ground or something.
But she looked like she fell straight back.
Yeah.
Timber.
Stopping the video at the 12:58 mark. Sergeant Lasky, what is a 53?
Suicide.
And again, based on what you saw, this was this early in the investigation?
Yes, sir.
And I guess at this point, we're no more than half an hour since the discovery of Tori's body.
Correct.
That's all the questions I have at this time.
Right, cross-examination, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lawrence Lewis.
Sergeant Lasky.
Sergeant Lasky, you and I haven't spoken before today, have we?
I'm sure we have at some point, but
Okay,
not pertaining to this.
Not relating to this case. Fantastic. So we'll start fresh as it relates to this case. If I ask you a question you don't understand, you let me know, and then I'll try to rephrase it so that you and I are on the same page.
Yes, sir.
As of July 2021, how long had you been in law enforcement?
You're asking me to do math.
When did you come? When were you post certified? How about that?
2012. I started with the county.
Okay, so 2012 to 2021, I have 9 years, even though that may not be correct. So did it feel like 9 years that you had?
Yeah, that
been on
sounds
the
about
force?
right.
About 9 years, and during that time, I'm assuming that you went and got training. Is that fair to say, as it relates to crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, about how much training do you get per year, or did you get in that 9 years that was specifically directed toward your assessment of crime scenes?
I couldn't definitively say.
Less than 5 hours a year, more than 50 hours a year?
I know that we had, I believe, 40, either 32 or 40 in the academy itself. And then I took an advanced crime scene class after that.
Okay, how long was that class?
I believe either another 32 or 40.
All right, so assuming with those two classes, you had 80 specific hours of crime scene training. Do you recall in the 5 years leading up to this crime scene, July of 2021, if you had additional crime scene training?
I don't recall.
Okay. Is that a big part of your job, crime scene training?
I mean, working on crime scenes themselves, yes. I mean, different types of training, and crime scene training itself is often involved within other types of training. It'll get discussed in like criminal law training and prosecution training and stuff like that as well.
Right. Fair enough. And if in fact the medical examiner reached one conclusion and you reached a different conclusion about a crime scene or body at the crime scene, would you defer to the medical examiner?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Any redirect?
There.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Lasky. You can step down, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This
Okay. They are in recess until lunch. Let me find where it starts back. Let's see. Okay. Think I got it. Oops.
welcome back from the lunch recess. I will ask the state to call its next witness, please.
Abigail Hamill, formerly known as Houston.
I love that dog. I'll put her on the bottom so you can see her better.
Good afternoon. If you watch your step coming around, please, and get seated comfortably directly in front of the microphones for me, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Abigail Hamill. I'm a crime scene specialist with Gwinnett County Police Department.
And as what education do you have to be a crime, or education training do you have to be a crime scene specialist with Gwinnett County?
I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in criminology. I'm certified by the state of Georgia to be a crime scene technician. I've attended over 300 hours of training in order to achieve that certification. And I've been doing this for about 3 years now.
And what are the basic duties of a crime scene investigator in Gwinnett County?
The main portion of our job is to process crime scenes, to collect, preserve, and process any evidence related to those crime scenes.
What can that evidence include?
The evidence for each scene varies from scene to scene. We don't usually get the same thing at any particular scene, but typically the processing usually includes photography, any type of chemical testing such as blood testing or fingerprinting of that evidence.
Were you so assigned and so employed in July of 2021?
Yes, I was.
Did you participate in the investigation of a homicide that occurred at Yellow River Park?
I did.
And what was your role in that investigation?
I was the lead crime scene technician that was present at the investigation.
And what specifically would your role be as the lead crime scene investigator?
So the investigation starts off with a walkthrough, which we would get from a first responding officer who arrived at the scene before us. They take us through the scene to show us any evidence that's been located prior to our arrival. And then we also conduct our own search of the scene as well to identify any additional evidence that maybe got missed during that initial period before we arrived. And then after we get the walkthrough, we begin processing the scene, which usually starts with photography. We'll lay down any evidence markers that we need to at that point in time and re-photograph the scene again. We'll take video footage depending on the type of scene that we have. Usually for a homicide, we would take video footage. And then we'll conduct a secondary search of the scene to ensure that no evidence has been missed a second time. And then we would collect the evidence from that point, and then usually it's transported back to a lab for further processing.
Okay, so that's generally. Specifically, what did you do with regard to this investigation that was at Yellow River Park in July of 2021?
So upon arrival at the scene, like I said, I had the officers do a walkthrough. So they showed me the evidence that they found. I did obtain photographs of the scene. Searching additionally was conducted after the scene walkthrough. So in this case, the victim was adjacent to a large field. And then there was a wooded area surrounding that field. So we had a class of officers in training, an entire class come out to help with the search, to do a line search, to walk along a specific path in order to search the ground and make sure that no evidence was missed in the large field that was adjacent to where she was located. And then in the wooded area that led from her location towards the parking lot. We also called out a canine unit to come and search as well. And then upon the searches being completed and the photographs being completed, the evidence was collected. Which the evidence in this case was 2 fired cartridge casings, which I collected and took to the crime scene truck where we have a processing area. The fired cartridge casings were swabbed for DNA, and then they were processed for fingerprints using black fingerprint powder. They were then transferred into the custody of another specialist in order for ballistics testing to be performed on them back at the lab. Video documentation was collected from the scene. A rough sketch was drawn of the scene itself. And then once the medical examiner staff arrived in order to move the body of the victim, additional photographs were taken, and then swabs were taken of the blood that was left on the area after the victim was removed.
Do you recall which crime scene analyst the shell casings were turned over to?
Yes.
Who?
That's crime scene specialist Kia Jimenez.
Now, did you conduct any of the ballistics testing or analysis of the 2 shell casings that were fired?
I performed the DNA swabs of the casings and the fingerprinting of the casings before they got turned over to Specialist Jimenez, but I did not do the ballistics testing myself.
Did you get any results from the fingerprint testing or swabs of the shell casings that you found?
The DNA swabs are not tested within Gwinnett County Police Department. If they were going to be tested, then a detective would send them off to the GBI for testing. I don't know the results of those tests. The fingerprinting did not yield any results.
And when you say they, I guess, didn't yield any results, did you find any fingerprints on the shell case?
I did not.
Show you what's marked as State's Exhibits 8 through 19. That's a series of photographs starting with State's Exhibit number 8. Could you describe what they are?
Yes. State's Exhibit number 8 is a photograph depicting one of the fired cartridge casings that contains an evidence marker, which I placed, which is evidence marker number 1. State's Exhibit number 9 is an up-close picture of State's Exhibit number 8, which contains one of the fired cartridge casings that's marked with evidence marker number 1. State's Exhibit number 10 is the other of the 2 fired cartridge casings, which is marked with evidence marker number 2. State's Exhibit 11 is a photograph of the body of the victim standing from the angle of her right foot. It shows her entire body and also the ground surrounding that area. State's Exhibit 12 is another angle of the victim's body, which is kind of standing at the end of both of her feet, looking upwards towards her head. State's Exhibit 13 is a photograph showing the victim's right hand. It also depicts her hair and some biological fluids on the ground near her head. State's Exhibit 14 still shows the victim's right hand, but it also shows an image of more of her hair, the blood on the ground near her head, and then more of her head in that picture. State's Exhibit 15 is more of an up-close 90-degree shot of the upper torso and head of the victim, and it also depicts a portion of her hair as well. State's Exhibit 16 is a picture of the ground that was beneath the victim after the medical examiner personnel had moved her. It also shows the blood that was left on the ground after she had been moved. State's Exhibit 17 is a wider shot of the crime scene prior to the victim being moved. The evidence markers have been placed to show the location of the fired cartridge casings at this point in time, and the picture also shows the screens that we use for privacy purposes. State's Exhibit 18 shows the overall crime scene prior to the evidence markers being laid. You can still note the location of the fired cartridge casings by small pieces of paper that were placed prior to my arrival. It also contains the body of the victim as well. State's Exhibit 19 is another image that shows the overall layout of the scene, including evidence markers marking the fired cartridge casings. And this is from the point of view of beyond the victim's feet.
Are each one of those a true and accurate depiction of what you described?
Yes, they are.
Do any of them appear to have been altered in any way?
No, they do not.
None of the state would tender State's Exhibits 8 through 19?
States 8 through 19 are then admitted without objection.
I'm going to
Okay.
point out for the jury as I publish these. There will be no audio with these, Your Honor.
He says there's no audio with these, like we can hear what they're saying anyway.
Start with State's Exhibit number 8.
Looks like she's looking at Lucy.
I realize you described it, but can you just point out for the jury what is significant and what is State's Exhibit number 8 contains?
You're gonna have to keep your voice up if you step away from the microphone. And that's fine.
So this right here would be the fired cartridge casing that evidence marker number 1 is labeling. This white piece of paper was laid prior to my arrival by first responding officers just for ease of locating this item, but I placed the evidence marker in order to mark it for the photographs.
State's Exhibit 9.
Right.
This is a closer up picture of the previous image, which shows you more clearly the fired cartridge casing that evidence marker number 1 is labeling.
Now, as far as you know, is this shell casing where it was found and as it was found?
As far as I know, yes, it has not been moved.
Is it sitting on top of, Can I ask a question? Does it look like it's been stepped on?
No, it appears to be sitting on the surface of the ground.
So if it had been stepped on or some pressure were applied to it, what could have happened to it?
You would notice that specifically the hollow portion right here would maybe be filled with dirt or would be sunken into the ground further.
This is State's Exhibit 10.
This is the second of the two fire cartridge casings, which I have labeled with evidence marker number 2. It also had a piece of white notebook paper prior to my arrival.
And does the shell casing in State's Exhibit number 10 appear to have been stepped on?
No, it does not.
And how can you tell that?
The hollow portion right here does not appear to have any dirt in it. It appears to be sitting on the surface.
This is State's Exhibit 11.
So this image is depicting the body of the victim, as I described before, kind of off from her right foot. It shows her in the position that she was in when I arrived on scene. To my knowledge, she hasn't been manipulated or moved at all at this point in time.
So there were 2 shell casings.
State's Exhibit 12.
This is more of an overall shot of the body of the victim where you can see more on top of her body standing north.
State's Exhibit 13.
This image is depicting the right hand of the victim. It's also showing the hair of the victim in this direction, and it also shows blood that's present.
State's Exhibit 15.
It is showing more of a 90-degree shot of the victim from torso to the top of her head. It does show the blood flow from her nose and from her eyes towards the top portion of her head and off to the side. You can also see what appears to be a bone here as well.
State's Exhibit 16.
This is the ground. You can see the right hand of the victim here, but this is after medical examiner staff has moved her, and this is the ground beneath where she was laying at the time. This area here is where the approximate location of her head, so it's showing the blood that was left behind after she had been moved.
State's Exhibit 17.
More of an overall shot of the scene prior to her being moved. The evidence markers are here labeling those fire cartridge casings that we saw in the previous images, and then the privacy screens that we showed in the eye of the public.
Because about what time of the day was it at this point?
I don't know the exact time of this photograph, but it was probably close to 8 in the morning.
So had the sun come up?
Yes.
And were there, I guess, people coming into the park to do park activities?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 28.
I'm
Similar.
sorry, we don't have a 28 yet.
I'm sorry, 18. 28 was my own designation.
This is a similar photograph, but prior to the evidence markers, the eye laid being placed. You can still see the white notebook paper indicating the approximate location of the fire casings, but this is just a different angle showing the body of the victim.
And does it show the condition of the ground where in the area where she was found?
Yes, it appears as though the ground is kind of damp. Maybe it had rained the night before, and it's not very grassy here. You can see there's a large tree, so there's not a lot of grass right in this area, and the ground was very compact.
Were there a lot of footprints present?
There were not.
Now, as this photograph was taken after officers had been on the scene, marked shell casings, and erected small barricades, were even officers' footprints, were those present?
No, and at this point in time, I had also walked through the scene and my own footprints were also not present.
And State's Exhibit 19.
Showing the body of the victim from her feet area, but you can see the evidence markers that have been placed for them.
And again, are there any footprints in this photograph?
There are not.
Thank you. You also mentioned scene videos.
Yes.
Did you take videos of this crime scene?
Yes, I did.
They show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 20. You recognize this?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a USB containing the video footage that I obtained from the crime scene.
How many videos are contained on that thumb drive?
I believe there's 5.
And did you watch each and every one of them?
Yes.
And is each and every one of them a true and accurate depiction of the video you took on the scene in Yellow River Park on July 28th, 2021?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would tender State's Exhibit 20 as the thumb drive, and Exhibits 20A through E being the 5 videos that CSI Hamill recorded on the day of on the crime scene.
All right, State's 20 is admitted.
Are the videos narrated, or are they simply just that videos?
There's no audio on the videos.
I'm going to publish at this time, and I will start with Exhibit 20A.
Lucy must really like how I redid everything under there because she doesn't even really get up to go get me flip-flops anymore.
If you could just tell the jury what we're looking at.
So this is a little bit further away from the actual scene, kind of showing how the scene appears as we walk towards the scene. You can tell that we're outside of the main barrier of crime scene tape at this point.
And at the beginning of the video, I'm pausing it at the 2-second mark. Are you able to see kind of how large the area of the park is around where Tori was found?
Yes, so this would be this area here, and extending off in that direction would be the grassy field that I referred to early on. And then the immediate area where she was located is kind of contained right here in this crime scene tape. There's also, you can see wooded areas along this way, and this direction would be towards the parking lot area.
And was this the area that was searched by the line of police recruits that you mentioned?
Yes, it was.
And again, was anything found as a result of those searches?
No.
Now publishing Exhibit 20B. Again, if you could just describe for the jury what we're looking at.
So this is walking up towards the scene as it was found. You can tell that I've laid the evidence markers down to mark the fired cartridge casings at this point. It shows the distance between the body of the victim and the evidence markers labeling the fired cartridge casings.
Pause it here at about 4 seconds. Whoa. It's clear. You mentioned it shows the distance between the body and the cartridge casings.
Correct.
Did you measure that distance?
I didn't personally measure the distance. We had another specialist measure the distance between the casings.
How familiar are you with the operation of semi-automatic firearms and the ejection of cartridge casings?
I have a basic understanding of how semi-automatic firearms work.
Does a semi-automatic firearm eject a cartridge casing when it's fired?
It does.
What happens to, or what can happen to a shell casing after it is ejected from a semi-automatic firearm?
Shell casings can be, typically with a right-handed firearm, shell casings will be ejected out the right side of the gun. They can go any number of direction, any number of ways, depending on the type of gun, the mechanisms of the individual shooter. There's really no consistency as to where they will go or how they will land. They can bounce or roll or do any number of things depending on the weather, the shooter, any number of factors that vary person to person.
Is that way you personally did not measure the distance between, or where the distances relating to these shell casings?
In my training and experience, the distance between the shell casings and any other items of evidence isn't something that we typically would measure because we don't consider it pertinent information to have regarding a crime scene. But I didn't personally measure these because I knew that digital imaging would be taken, which could later provide the measurements if needed.
Now to publish video exhibit 20C.
So this is showing an up-close shot of the fire cartridge casing labeled with evidence marker number 1. And then we're moving on to the fire cartridge casing labeled with evidence marker number 2.
Welcome back, Kelly P. Hi, Trudy.
States exhibit 20D.
And this is showing just video documentation of the body of the victim prior to her being moved or manipulated in any way. And this showing the defect in the side of her head.
And when you say defect, what do you mean?
Typically, we use the word defect to describe a hole that's made as a result from a gunshot wound.
And is that what it appeared to be to you?
Yes.
States exhibit 20E.
This is showing the body of the victim from the other side of her, also showing the other side of her head as well.
They're moving through this slow.
You recognize states exhibit 21?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize states exhibit 21?
These are the fire cartridge casings that I collected from the crime scene.
And how do you know that these are the fire cartridge casings that you collected from this crime scene?
They contain the original packaging, which I taped and initialed, each individually and also both together.
And are they in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected them and packaged them?
Other than the fact that they've been removed from their packaging, yes.
You're going to stay with tender states exhibit 21? No objection, Judge. Thank you.
All right, 21 is admitted without objection.
That's all the questions I have for Investigator Hamill at this time.
Oops. Every time I do that, I mess it up.
All right, Mr. Lawrence Lewis, cross-examination.
Thank you. Ms. Hamill, the function of the investigator. How should I refer to you? Investigator? Ms. Hamill?
Either is fine.
Is it a title investigator?
Specialist investigator.
Okay, fantastic. Let me start here. You testified that you didn't leave any discernible footprints on the ground when you walked around the scene. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so when I hear you say that, I think that the ground was hard. Is that a fair characterization? The ground was hard such that you couldn't leave any footprints?
It seemed to be fairly compact, yes.
Okay, and is it fair to say that fire cartridge casings can bounce on a hard ground? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right. And is that why you indicate that the distance of the shell casings is not pertinent? Is that why you said that?
That can be a portion of the reason, but it's not the reason in its entirety.
Okay. Give me the reason it's in its entirety, why the distance of the shell casings is not pertinent.
The amount of variables that can come into play when measuring the location of a shell casing is too high to scientifically replicate and create a constant for. They could be moved because of the ground, the wind, if it had been rained on, the physics of the shooter, him or herself, whoever it may be, how strong they're holding the firearm can affect the direction of the casings. So there's just too many variables to create a scientific constant in order to have that be something that we can rely on as scientific evidence.
And when you say that, in my mind, even if you can try to replicate one firearm, 6 of the same type of shell casings, a dummy hand firing it, the shell casings are going to go all over. They're never going to land in the same spot. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so where the shell casings land does not give you any indication of where the gun was when the fired cartridge casings were ejected from the gun. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay, and that's why you said you don't need to be taking all these measurements because it's not perfect. We really just don't know where the gun was when these rounds were ejected. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. The 2 fired cartridge casings were recovered. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And they appear to be the same brand. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you put black powder on each of the separate fired cartridge casings in order to try to get fingerprints?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in doing that, you were unable to pull any fingerprints of value. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
We have the pictures of sort of where the rounds are. The round that's closest to the body is about how far away from the body?
If I can refer.
Okay, so this is the one that was closest to the body.
The round that was closer to the body was marked with evidence marker number 2, and it was approximately 9 feet away from the head of the victim.
9 feet away from the head. And other rounds marked number 1?
Yeah, that was approximately 14 feet away from the head of the victim.
14 feet. And do we know how far number 1 and number 2 were from each other?
I don't personally have that measurement. I believe another specialist would have that.
All right, that's fine. The 2 shell casings that were recovered, the brand, do you have that in your report?
I do.
What's the brand?
The shell casings that were recovered from the scene were Aguila brand.
Spell that for me.
Yes, Aguila.
And they were 9mm rounds?
That's correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked Stacy exhibit number 5. I don't know if I should suggest that they're bullets or shell casings, but they appear to be ammunition. That appears to be ammunition in Stacy exhibit number 5. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Are those rounds labeled the same thing? Do they appear to be the same brand?
As each other or as the
Yeah,
casings?
as each other.
There are 2 different types of brands in this picture.
What are the 2 different types?
Okay, the first one is RP Luger 9mm. The second brand is Aguila 9mm.
How many of the first type are there? Well, first of all, how many rounds are there?
There are 10 rounds.
10 rounds. How many of the first type are rounds?
There are 6 of the first type.
So I assume then that 4 are the Aguila 9mm. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that appears, those 4 rounds appear to be the same type of rounds as the shell casings that you recovered. Is that right?
They do.
Thank you very much. No further questions. Thank you, Judge.
How can you identify, I guess, the brand of a shell casing or a live round?
The head stamp, which is the flat portion at the back of the ammo or of the casing, will have a brand and typically also a number, which will indicate the millimeter or the caliber of ammunition.
Is this common amongst the manufacturers of ammunition?
Yes.
Do you know anything about the Aguila brand of ammunition?
I don't.
Is it fair to say that these were not the only Aguila rounds in existence?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that they probably meant that there were probably a large number of them manufactured?
Yes.
Response.
I'll withdraw the question.
The jury will disregard that question.
How many, how many different brands of ammunition have you seen in your career as a crime scene investigator?
More than I could probably number.
Do you often see, I guess, the same brands or multiple brands? Let me think. Hold on, I'll try that question. Have you seen the same brand at more than one scene?
Yes.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
No, thank you, Judge.
All right, you can step down. Just take your personal belongings, please. I'll ask Bailiff Wooten to move the exhibits to the front of the bench. And please call your next witness.
Like they forgot to turn on one of the mics or something. That's what it, because I've even got the volume boost on.
I think she's trying to get your attention, one of the bailiffs. All right, let me just notify your advocate to have your witness wait outside. Let's take a 10-minute restroom break, please. I'll
Okay.
allow the jurors to step out, please. Leave your notepads and pens. Remember.
I also have various certificates.
Okay. Hi, Abe. Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad.
All right, swear in your witness, please.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony given this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please introduce yourself to the hand down now. Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Brittany Barrington. I am a crime scene supervisor with the Gwinnett County Police Department Crime Scene Investigations Unit.
What education training do you have that allows you to do that job?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in social and criminal justice. I have a master's in education. I am also post-certified as a crime scene investigator with the state of Georgia. I also have various certificates through the forensic community as well.
Did you participate in the investigation of a homicide or death in Yellow River Park on July 28th of 2021?
Yes.
What was your role in that investigation?
As a supervisor, I am at the scene to make sure everything is flowing okay, everything is getting done how it needs to get done. We have a lead crime scene specialist that is their scene that they work. I am responsible for what actions they are doing and also a go-between between us and detectives.
What's a Pharaoh?
So a Pharaoh is a computer program that does a live 3D scan of any type of environment that we need to document what's going on at the scene. So it is a scanner that scans wherever we are, indoors, outdoors, and it's for investigative purposes. It helps us with documentation, capturing what maybe photography wouldn't capture, just an overall sense of how the scene is in like a real version, like real, you're there, street version.
Can you spell that for us?
It's just F-A-R-O.
And are you trained and certified in how to use the Pharaoh?
Yes, I was trained and certified in February of 2020.
And did you utilize it in Yellow River Park in July of 2021?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to generate measurements at the request of the DA's office?
Yes, I was.
To show you what's marked as States Exhibits 22 and 23. What are States Exhibits 22 and 23?
22 and 23 are still photos of the Pharaoh scan of a particular scan that has measurements from two particular points to one singular point. It's a point-to-point.
And are those true and accurate stills of the ones that you generate?
Yes.
Has anything been added to them, taken away from them?
No.
You're going to say with tender States Exhibits 22 and 23, which are still photographs of Pharaoh scans. Okay.
Right, 22 and 23 are admitted without objection.
Offhand, do you know what's Pharaoh mean? Is it an acronym?
It's just the business name.
1 second, so I can publish these to the jury.
Oh, come on. For some reason, when I downloaded it, acts weird.
Exhibit 22. Can you describe what we're looking at? Exhibit 22.
Yes. So what you're viewing is one of the scans that was completed on scene. So in order to accurately depict what the scene looks like using Faro, there's different scan points that you need to get like a 360 view, make sure that everything is captured that's needed. This is one of those scan locations. And what you're looking at is evidence marker 1 and evidence marker 2 and the decedent. And you're looking also at the measurements, the point to point from evidence marker 1 to the center of the decedent's forehead, and evidence marker 2 also at the same point of the center of the forehead.
Thank you. No questions asked.
Examination.
Good afternoon. Let me ask this first question. When was that request made by the district attorney's office for you to use the Faro system?
The specific to get the measurements part, or that was about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And what's after the measurements part?
What do you mean?
You indicated to get the measurements part. Is there a different process with Faro after the measurements part?
No.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago, a request was made for you to get the distance between where the blood pool is, where the decedent's head is, and where the rounds are. Is that right?
The only request that I was given was for the 2 casings to the head.
2 casings to the head. You weren't given the request for the distance of the casings from one another. Is that right?
That's right.
And how often do you use the Faro system in a homicide case?
For Faro, we use it for every homicide case.
Every homicide case. Does that mean that you produce those type of photos with the measurements for every case, or is that something that information is taken but is not produced unless specifically requested?
That's correct. We actually have a system that is accessible, that you can do an actual live version of what measurements you specifically want. We provide that to whoever wants that, so they can create their own measurements. But if they specifically request certain measurements, then we can go and do those measurements, do a print screen, and print it out for whoever's requesting it.
Got it. Thank you very much, Ms. Barrington. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you so much. You may step down.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Jimenez.
If you watch your step coming up, and if you will be seated comfortably in the chair and position yourself directly in front of the microphone for me, please.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Kia Jimenez, and I'm a crime scene investigator with Gwinnett County Police Department.
And what training and education do you have that allows you to do this job?
I have a Bachelor's of Arts and a Bachelor's of Science from the University of Georgia. I also have completed a 5-month on-the-job field training program that allows me to do all of the specifics related to crime scene. In addition to that, I do hold post-certification through the state of Georgia, non-sworn, as a crime scene technician.
Do you have special training or knowledge as it relates to firearms?
I do. In addition to the state mandated post training, we are given opportunities to train in other specializations. And I have taken shooting reconstruction courses. I apologize. Along with advanced shooting reconstruction, I am also trained through the ATF, the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, to do triage and analysis of casings to do presumptive matches between casings that are fired from firearms.
Have you ever been admitted as an expert in the state of Georgia as it relates to firearms and or the triage of shell casing or identification of shell casings?
Yes, I have.
How many times?
At least twice.
Your Honor, the state would tender CSI Jimenez as an expert in firearms and the identification of shell casings.
Yes, all right, members of the jury, sometimes when objections are made, the nature of it requires me to consider it outside your presence. So I ask you to leave your notepads and pens in your chair and please step out with the bailiff.
I want to like skip through the jury walking out. Why does it do this? I downloaded it and it does this. That's weird.
Shell casing identification? Well, tell me now specifically how you're seeking to tender her.
Showcasing triage and identification.
Nothing with firearms.
Well, firearms and triage. I thought you were asking the last part. Firearms and showcasing triage.
Okay, I'm not sure what that means.
I'm not sure what it means either, Judge. So that's what I mean. Listen, she's being presented as an expert to say shell casings come out of semi-automatic weapons. I don't have any objection to that. Is she going to identify that these shell casings were fired? I don't have any objection to that because there's a firing pin mark on the faceplate, the whatever it's called, I forget, the head stamp. So I'm not quite sure what she's going to testify to, but I couch it in this terms. 2 witnesses ago, the person with the master's degree said that this is of shell casings is not pertinent.
Okay. Do you want to proffer her outside the presence of the jury? First of all, I don't know what it means to be an expert in shell casing, triage, and identification. So I'm going to need, okay, through the witness. So let's bring the witness back in. Let me have Mr. Norris Lewis for the state clarify for the court more clearly how he seeks to tender the witness as an expert. And I'll let you, Mr. Lawrence Lewis, cross-examine her outside the presence of the jury. And then hopefully I will be prepared to rule. All right, and before we resume the question, Christine, can you back up for me to the beginning? And let me just review.
The beginning of the question, yeah.
About her background. Let me go back to that.
Uncle Phil and Steve Harvey are getting frustrated. What are they waiting on?
She remains under oath. Let me have you clarify for the court, please, through questioning of how you seek to tender her as an expert, Mr. Norris Lewis.
You mentioned a firearms a course that you took in showcasing triage and identification given by ATF. What do they teach you in that class?
So it was 3 separate courses. The primary course was a triage course, which basically teaches you to identify class characteristics or overall characteristics of a head stamp of a casing so that you can group them into groups that can then be examined by someone who is higher trained to determine whether or not those are likely to have been fired from the same weapon. After that, there's an acquisitions course, which is the process of entering those casings onto the NIBIN or the IBIS system. After that, there's a correlations course. That course is what I'm trained in all the others, but that one is the one that actually gives me the ability to compare casings. So that course, you are basically taught to take casings and they are run through the NIBIN system. You receive a, top however many options of casings that could be potential matches based on those class characteristics that were done way before.
Thank you, Amy.
But then we actually have to, as correlators, go in and compare the individual striations that are left onto the head stamp by the firearm when the actual casing is ejected from the gun. And we're comparing those and saying, like, are these actually going to be leads? Are they going to be related? Now, after that, they get sent to a firearm examiner for confirmation, but we are not, that's done by the GBI. The ATF gives us the ability to make those leads without any oversight because of the training we've had.
So based on your training and your knowledge, are you able to compare 2 rounds that have been fired from a weapon and make at least a preliminary determination on whether or not they were fired from the same weapon?
Yes. A confirmation does have to occur after, but the preliminary I can do.
And are there characteristics that you observe on those fired shell casings that determine whether or not you make that determination that you're able to make?
Yes, there are characteristics on the actual shell casing that allow you to make that comparison.
And also, so I can be complete with this. Are you familiar with semi-automatic handguns?
Yes.
how have you come to be familiar with semi-automatic handguns?
When we began our, I guess, firearms or our NIBIN unit, I was tasked with being the original person to assist in creating the system of test firing weapons and then entering those into an older system that we have. But through that, I was, consistently, weekly getting firearms from our evidence unit, having to take them to our firing range to be test fired, taking those casings and then entering them into our system. So, I mean, I handled, gosh, in my career, several hundreds, if not thousands of firearms.
Are you familiar with the 6-hour P365?
Yes, I actually had a case earlier this year with a P365.
Have you had occasion to test fire a 6-hour P365?
I believe so. I don't have the exact numbers, but actually, yes, that firearm was test fired in January this year.
Do you have any idea how many times it was test fired by you?
I do not. I mean, we typically do 2 test fires, but I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't say exactly.
Are you familiar with the type of fire, the type of mark the firing pin from a 6-hour P365 typically leaves on the shell casing?
Typically, yes.
I don't have any other questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination by Lawrence Lewis.
I don't have any cross-examination questions, Judge. Again, I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Lewis. If preliminarily what she's going to say is the same firearm fired both shell casings, I'll stipulate to that. But I think it's a little bit more than that as I sat and listened, and I think that she may be testifying as an expert as to this specific weapon being the likely weapon that fired both of the shell casings. As it relates to the same firearm firing both shell casings, I'll stipulate to that. But it seems like she has some more, and I don't know that she needs to qualify as an expert to triage, but I don't have any objection.
So let me make sure I understand your argument. So are you withdrawing your objection to her being tendered as an expert as presented by the state?
I don't even know if it came out as an objection. I asked to take up something outside the presence of the jury because I didn't even understand I understand triage in a landing zone military type situation. I didn't understand what she was testifying to. I don't have any objection in terms of what has been proffered, her being an expert to testify as to what has been proffered she's going to testify to. I don't have any objection.
All right, but what I don't want to do is bring the jury in and then she starts testifying to something that's not exactly what you think. So please proffer her so we can clarify that on any issue that you might object to.
I don't see me objecting to any issue that sounds like one gun fired both of these shell casings. I don't see me objecting to anything involving her expert opinion as to the weapon that fired these shell casings being this P blah, blah, blah gun. Anything else is going to have to come in my mind after this moment. But at this moment, I don't foresee me asking her any questions that would require me to challenge her expertise as the prosecutor has offered it to the court to this point. Thank you, Judge.
All right, I'll bring the jury in and I will have her so tendered as an expert as requested by the state. Are both sides ready?
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's bring the jury in.
Okay, so they are going to tender her an expert. Get to the point where the jury's back in. There we go.
CSI Jimenez is an expert in firearms and in shell casing, triage, and identification.
No objection, Judge.
All right, hearing no objection, she will be so tendered.
Are you familiar with the operation of a semi-automatic handgun?
I am.
I guess, have you fired semi-automatic handguns before?
I have.
You fired a lot of semi-automatic handguns.
I have.
I have. Let me show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 30, and I will fill in the numbers. What is State's Exhibit 30?
This is a USB containing videos showing the mechanical operation of a firearm when it is fired and the different components of a firearm.
Have you viewed those videos?
I have.
Would they assist you in explaining to the jury the complete function of a semi-automatic handgun?
They would provide a visual representation.
Yeah, he's
I would
giving
tender
Stu
State's
vibes.
Exhibit 30 and the videos A, B, and C for demonstrative purposes.
I don't have any objection, Judge.
All right, is it narrated by this witness?
Videos do contain audio, but the audio will not be published to the jury, and I will allow CSI Jimenez to narrate the videos.
All right, so any exception to that, Mr. Lawrence Lewis?
Thank you, Judge.
All right, so that the record is clear, only the video portions of States 30 A, B, and C are being admitted for the record. No audio is admitted by the court.
Virginia Little, I think there's something going around in Florida. I'm glad you're feeling better though.
There's a pointer right in front of you.
Yes.
State's Exhibit 38.
Okay, so here we are just going to be going over some of the principal components of a firearm. So this is a semi-automatic handgun. The portion that's racked back to actually load the round into the chamber is called the slide. That's at the top of the firearm. All right, the grip module is just
Do you want to go
a
through
portion of the
all of
actual
this?
handle that you're going to be
Here
using.
she's
This back portion is the tang. That's just going to be a rest against the
where she's
guess,
explaining all of this, or
webbing
you
area
skip
of your
through
hand.
to the parts where it's about the
And of
trial
course,
and
everyone
not
knows the
about
trigger. The
how to work
plastic
a
piece
gun.
around is the trigger guard to prevent any accidental misfires. The hammer, this is going to be the portion of the firearm that actually comes back when the trigger is pulled that will actually push the firing pin in. Now you have a rear sight and a front sight so that you can actually over again.
State's 30C. And obviously each semi-automatic firearm ejects a cartridge casing.
To Specialist Musi.
But are they, what is the item in them?
The item in them is going to be the 2 cartridge casings that I recovered from her at the scene. In fact, I can see the truck's lab bench in the background. And so this is going to be photographs of the 2 Aguila 9mm fired cartridge casings that I collected and entered.
Are they accurate depictions of the shell casings that were turned over to you and that are physically present in State's Exhibit 21?
I swear with all the trials we watch, we could all be firearm experts.
Of the aforementioned shell casings in State's Exhibit 21.
24 through 29 are admitted without objection.
I like it when we can skip forward through that part because it saves us. We just can't do it live, unfortunately.
This is a photograph of one of the 2 9mm shell casings that we were discussing previously, along with a note in Specialist Musi's handwriting, just designating this as evidence marker number 1.
So it's typical in CSI's lab amongst the analysts, investigators.
Mhm.
They don't know what to say.
Specialists.
That's not what they amongst the specialists, it's common to EM is evidence marker and 1 is obviously 1.
That is correct.
And
That's the time that
09,
was
29
recovered.
hours,
That's
time was
correct.
collected.
And in Celebrite, we're all Celebrite experts at this point too. Oops. I think that's a good idea too. I mean, we could really run a trial.
State's Exhibit 26.
And this is going to be a top-down photograph of the head stamp showing that one of the two casings as a Gila 9mm.
And does it depict firing pin stamp in the cover left by the weapon that fired it?
Yes, if you look inside of the centermost circle, you have a circular shape, which is going to be the firing pin impression. This portion right here is going to be the firing pin impression.
And what characteristics of that allow you to compare it to the mark made by, or let me rephrase that. What characteristics of that allow you to compare it to a mark left on a different showcase?
So the shape of it as well as striations found within it. Now with head stamps, we're not just looking for firing pins. We will look for ejector marks as well. And ejector marks are found on this outer rim. And here is a clearly defined rectangular ejector mark, which will have individual striations in it as well that can be compared against another casing.
Skip out of order here and show you States Exhibit 29. What is States, or describe for the jury what's in States Exhibit 29.
So this is another photograph of a head stamp of one of the two casings depicting that same circular shaped firing pin and also an ejector mark rectangular in fashion. Let's see.
And in your opinion, based on your knowledge, training, and experience, can you tell whether or not these marks were left by the same weapon?
From these photographs, not 100%. I would need a microscopic image, but I did see them microscopically when they were uploaded, and they did appear to be from the same weapon.
And are you able to tell what type of weapon left that mark?
Unfortunately, no. I can't testify to what weapon it would have left it. Characteristics of the weapon, absolutely, but a firearms examiner would have to give that specific information.
Is it consistent with the characteristics of any weapon that you're familiar with?
Yes, it is consistent with a P365.
Consistent with a P365.
States Exhibit 27.
This is a photograph that was taken by Specialist Musi of the second fired cartridge casing with evidence marker number 2 written beside.
And lastly, States Exhibit 28.
And this is going to be another photograph of one of the two casings. I'm assuming the second based on the sequence, just showing the scale of that casing.
And I guess you said striations on the side?
The striations on the side of the casing?
I might be misquoting.
Yes, no, we don't do comparisons of any striations on the side. Now there may be a portion of the extractor might leave a marking on the underside of the rim here, but I don't see that in this particular photo.
Okay. When you observed them microscopically, did you see that?
We don't typically use those as the sole comparison.
But what you were able to observe was enough to conclude that they have the same characteristics as being fired from a P365.
Yes, I mean, they do have characteristics that would be consistent with that.
And whether or not they were, irrespective of the weapon they were fired from, the two shell casings were left by the same weapon.
They do appear, yes, they do appear to be similar and that they look like they came from the same firearm.
Did you take part in any other part of the investigation of this particular homicide?
Yes, I processed a vehicle that was brought in relation to this case.
What condition was that vehicle in?
When it was received, it appeared to have severe charring and burn marks throughout and on the exterior of the vehicle. There was no visible tag. The VIN number had been essentially obliterated. The glass was melted into the car. It looked like it had been on fire for a good period of time.
Were you able to determine, I guess, where that vehicle came from, what kind of vehicle it was?
In terms of where it came from, that would be a question for the investigator or the officer that brought it in. However, we were able to identify a VIN number on the engine compartment of the vehicle that we were able to trace back to I believe a Nissan Versa, if I might reference my report.
You may. If it will refresh your recollection.
Yes. That was actually part of the detective's report, but it was a 4-door hatchback, and we were able to run the VIN numbers, but the actual make and model can be verified with the detective if necessary. But there was a Nissan emblem on the inside of the vehicle, and the VIN number 3N1BC1CP1CL364033 did return to a Nissan.
So it did return to a registered vehicle in the state?
It did. It did, as far as I know. I do not know the details of the registration, though.
Show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 32 through 37.
Thank you.
Can you describe what we're looking at in State's Exhibits 32 through 37?
Yes, these are photographs that I did take of the vehicle in its state when it was received by our crime scene investigations unit. We've documented the exterior, we being myself. I documented the exterior of the vehicle, the interior, and we also sifted through the debris inside for any items of possible evidence.
Were you able to locate any items of possible evidence or relevance?
We located a Nissan emblem, which was outside of the VIN, the only identifying information that we had at the time. We located that amongst the ash and debris in the floorboard in the front console area. We also located an aerosol can and I believe, red colored coffee cup that were underneath the seats. We weren't sure of their evidentiary value, but those were the things that we could identify in the vehicle.
And I'll go back to 32 through 37.
Yes.
Are those true and accurate depictions of the vehicle as it was in the evidence bay at Glen County CSI?
Yes, they are.
Has anything been added to them, removed from them? They've been altered?
They don't appear to have been.
They're all true and accurate depictions?
Yes.
Same with State's Exhibits 32 through 37.
All right, 32 through 37 are admitted without objection.
Show you what's marked as or admitted as.
Are you asking to publish?
I am, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
You may publish.
I'm publishing
Mhm.
State's Exhibit 32, which has been admitted. Can you describe to the jury what we're looking at?
Yes, this is a photograph from the rear driver's side window frame looking into the front
Wow.
cab of the vehicle. So here you are going to see what is left of the front driver's seat, front passenger seat, and then the dashboard components of the vehicle, as well as the insides of the door. You can see that the glass has been melted into the car, and most of the upholstery has been basically burnt to ash.
Showing you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 33.
This is a side profile photograph of that same portion of the vehicle. Here you have the front passenger, here is the front driver, and then this is the windshield that is melted over the dash component. However, you can see that all that's left are metal frames and pieces of glass, and then all of the combustible materials have been turned to ash.
Didn't he say that he didn't burn the car? That
State's Exhibit 34.
he doesn't know what happened.
State's Exhibit 34.
This is a top-down photograph of the front driver's seat. Underneath, you can see the red colored cup that's located inside of the vehicle. And then you just see a better view of some of the ash and material.
State's Exhibit 35.
This is an overall photograph of the engine compartment of the vehicle, with the focus of it being here inside of the engine compartment. This steel impressed VIN plate is where we were able to find the VIN number to the vehicle.
That's
It was,
what I
of course,
thought.
covered in ash, so it has been removed, but the VIN number to the vehicle is impressed.
State's Exhibit 36.
This is the back end of the vehicle, just showing the state of the exterior. All paint appears to have been burned off of the vehicle, and also there is no intact license plate or even bumper on the back of the vehicle.
Now, a license plate in the state of Georgia, do you know what it's made of?
A license plate? Oh, I do not.
Do you know whether or not it's metal?
It is metal. It's, I'm assuming, an aluminum material, but it's, I don't know the exact composition of it.
Based on your observations, did you find a charred or burned license plate?
No, there was nothing in the vehicle that appeared to resemble a license plate.
Um, Lastly, States 37.
This is the front end of the vehicle, again, showing that all of the plastic and rubberized components of the vehicle have been burned off.
A vehicle that is, let me ask you this, did you check for the things did people think a CSI would go looking for DNA, fingerprints? Did you look for those things?
So we did rifle through, myself and Supervisor Barrington. We went through the ash and debris to see if we could find anything that was not entirely burned so that we could attempt to retrieve DNA or fingerprints. However, unfortunately, every item in there had a layer of soot on the outside. And when you have an item that has been burned, it takes away from the viability of getting fingerprints and DNA off of those items. When you think about fingerprints, fingerprints are mostly water. So if you think about, if you set a cup of water out on a table on a hot day, eventually it's going to evaporate. The same thing happens with fingerprints. Now, if you introduce a very large heat source or a fire, that's going to happen more quickly. So fingerprints in a fire situation are very difficult, if not impossible, to recover. And DNA is part of a combustible material, flesh, bone, those sorts of things. And unfortunately, fire degrades those pretty severely in most cases. So we weren't able to find anything that resembled fingerprints or DNA in our search.
And I guess it's fair to say, just based on observation, that this was a fairly hot fire.
That is safe to say.
Was there any other duties that you performed in relation to this investigation?
I received, I believe the following day, a bag that was recovered by Investigator Smith that contained an aluminum, what appeared to be license plate from another location. I don't know the location where it was recovered, that did appear to have burns on it as well.
When you say a license plate, you mean like a vanity plate or a Georgia issued registration license plate?
Both. So there was a Georgia issued license plate that I wasn't able to like see anything on because it was just metal at that time. There was a plate, I guess the like plastic decals, like decorative plates that was around it, that I was able to get a name off of, like a brand name, but we weren't able to get any kind of tag number or anything like that because the way that license plates work, at least in Georgia, is the top layer is a foil because that's what makes it reflective when people are behind you with their headlights. And foil burns really easily. So that portion was gone, but the actual, I guess, body of the plate was still there.
Is it the foil that contains the identifiable numbering?
Yes, unfortunately.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
You cross-examination?
The demonstrative.
It's under the exhibit up here.
Appreciate that. Good afternoon. Can I call you Investigator Jimenez?
That's fine.
Thank you very much. I don't have a lot of questions, but let me start with this one. You indicated that a lot more of the semi-automatic guns have a right side ejecting. Is that right?
That's correct.
Do you call it a right side ejection port?
It's a right side ejection port.
Fantastic. Okay, and a right side ejection port as opposed to a left side ejection port. Is that right?
That's correct.
And is that because most shooters are right-handed and the shell casing is going to be ejected away from them as opposed to left-handed, or do you know?
I don't know. I can't say to the design rationale.
I don't know. It's a fine answer. Stovepipe. Tell the jury what a stovepipe is.
So a stovepipe is basically when you go to fire a weapon, when the trigger.
Okay, I know y'all want to skip through like the explanations of this stuff. I'll tell you that I have on one of the screens, I have this trial live. And I guess the defendant's mom got caught taking a picture of in the courtroom. She's supposed to have her phone off, and she just got caught taking a picture. And they are having a contempt hearing for her next Wednesday, and to decide if she's going to have like a fine or jail time or whatever. And they are filing a motion, I guess, to I think the defense is, if I read it right, is talking about filing a motion to have her banned from the courtroom. And like what we're watching is from yesterday. Today is day 2 of the trial. We're watching yesterday, of course, but it looks like state has rested, I guess, because they were just talking to him about whether or not he's going to testify. But yeah, so courtroom drama.
Consistent in that 6 hour typically has a circular firing pin. There are other firearms that have circular firing pins.
Okay, we've been through that.
This is Stacy's 38. Is this the vehicle that you found?
Correct.
What did you do when you got to the scene and found her vehicle?
I spoke to Park Ranger Curtis. He informed me that there was a murder that occurred in Gwinnett County, which is just one jurisdiction over from us, very close to the location we were at. He informed me that they were looking for a blue Nissan Versa. I approached the vehicle. I couldn't find any sort of identifying VIN and or tag to identify the vehicle. I did locate a Nissan emblem, which I then looked up the vehicle online and saw that it was matching what I could say was assumed to be the vehicle. That is a Nissan Versa.
And did you contact Gwinnett County?
Correct. I
Okay.
contacted a Gwinnett County sergeant. He arrived on
We
scene.
know
And
that
did you turn the vehicle over to
they didn't get anything from evidence out of this. Do you want to skip this part?
did the Gwinnett County Police Department take possession of the vehicle from the scene?
They called their own record service to take it to their lot.
And did you have any other role in this investigation after turning the vehicle over?
He said that he didn't have anything to do with it.
Cross-examination.
Let's see.
I guess as an arson investigator, someone with your education, background, and experience, what can you tell me?
All right, so now we've got
The fire appeared to have started on the interior compartment of the vehicle, the passenger compartment. That's really about as far as I can go on this one. I did not do a full examination
passenger
of this,
compartment.
This were origin and cause investigation. I was there to assist GCPD.
Now, what would a full, I'm going to put State's Exhibit 32.
Fire seemed to start from the passenger
The
compartment
fire appears to start
inside
in
the
passenger
car.
compartment.
Yes, sir.
Is the location where you believe the fire started contained in State's 32?
It's roughly in the front seat area. You can see the oxidation.
There's a pointer right.
Oh, thank you. You can see the oxidation, the rusting down here at the base. Typically, that's where the high heat would have originated inside of that vehicle. After several days, the oxidation tends to be more and more. You can kind of follow the pattern back towards back towards the area for you. I'm sorry. Excuse that.
Stop.
Sorry.
Would you describe this fire as intense?
There's nothing that could not burn is left on there, so everything is gone.
Now, you said in a full investigation, there were different things you might have done. As far as you know, where was this car found?
In DeKalb County.
And is there any indication that the fire occurred in Gwinnett County?
Not at all.
As such, would it have been the responsibility of DeKalb County arson investigator to conduct an investigation into the arson?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if they did?
I'm not familiar with it. I don't believe so, but I'm not completely sure.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Sure.
Cross-examination.
Something interesting what you raised. Someone with Gwinnett County went and picked up the vehicle in its burnt out condition in DeKalb and brought it back to Gwinnett. Is that right?
That's my understanding. Yes, sir.
And if there's a normal procedure, I don't necessarily assume that there is, but in that situation, since you're not doing a full investigation, would you then be contacting DeKalb? Like, what's the process with that interjurisdictional issue?
I was called over to bring evidence scans that we would take samples in for GCPD since it wasn't our investigation. They were requesting those materials that we have. Once I took them there, I asked them if the cab was involved, and they were not sure, so I gave them a contact to or direction to DeKalb County Arson. I don't know what happened beyond that though.
Okay, so once you brought over the materials, you didn't actually do any more investigation?
I did a 360 of the vehicle and told them my opinion of just on the 360, but it was not an official full investigation. I didn't take samples or anything that I would have.
So you had been in arson like 6 years at that point?
Roughly.
Okay, so you sort of eyeballed it walking around and you could tell, okay, it got burnt out. Could you tell if there was an accelerant that was used?
No, sir. I could, if we would have, our area of origin, we would have taken a sample and that would have sent off to the lab, and only that lab can tell us whether an accelerant was actually used or not.
I got you. You didn't do that.
No, sir.
And you don't know if the cab did that.
I'm not familiar.
And you weren't the point person to get in touch with the cab to make sure that they.
I just passed on a contact number.
Thank you very much, Investigator Strickland. Thank you. Thank you.
Redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You missed it down the excuse.
I was.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 39. What is State's Exhibit 39? What is it?
It's the title to the car.
Is that a true and accurate copy of the title to your car that Tori drove?
Yes.
And
Yes.
has anything been added to it, taken away from it? Your Honor, State would tender State's Exhibit 39.
All right, 39 is admitted without objection.
Do you know what happened to your car, Ms. Lang?
I learned that after Tori's passing, we had been searching for the car. And maybe about a week or so after her passing, we learned that the car had been found and it had been burnt. It had been torched.
Also going to show you what's been admitted as, all right, sorry, what is labeled as State's Exhibit 40? What is State's Exhibit 40?
Oh, the vehicle dealer title, reassignment supplement, okay.
I'm sorry, when you're ready to answer, if you would just speak in that microphone for me, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a true and accurate copy of the supplemental title report to your vehicle?
It is.
And is that your name listed as owner?
Yes,
And was this the vehicle that Tori drove?
yes, the Versa, yes.
Your Honor, State would tender State's Exhibit 40.
All right, 40 is admitted without objection.
I'm not going to make you read it, but is the VIN number located on both of these documents?
Yes.
And when the car was found, did as far as you know, did the officers tell you how they identified the car?
No,
Was it registered in your name?
yes,
Did you give anyone permission to, other than Tori, to take that car?
no,
Did you give permission to anyone to incinerate that car?
no, absolutely not.
Do you know the defendant, Austin Ford?
Yes,
Has you ever met him before?
yes,
He's
Did you
not
know
going
him
to
be
testify.
an acquaintance of Tori's?
yes,
Did he have permission to have, take, or use your car?
no, no, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I don't have a lot of questions, and I don't have any objection to Tori's photo staying up, Judge. After Tori graduated from high school, did she ever live with you?
Yes, she lived between her parents and me. We lived around the corner from each other, so she had two homes.
All right, and when she would stay with you, would she stay for like a week, a month, 6 months, or was it like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday with you, and then the other part of the week she'd stay with her mom?
Oh, it was no set timing in that. We shared her.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did she have a key to your home?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. So she had her own room in your home?
She and I shared a room.
Okay, all right. So if it was a Sunday night, it was nothing for you after Tori graduated from high school in 2021, Tori knocked on the door and just pop up on a Sunday. Is that it?
Well, after Tori graduated, I became ill. I have lupus, I have COPD, I have severe rheumatoid arthritis, and I have fibromyalgia and Raynaud syndrome. So Tori spent a lot of time with me outside of what she did, hanging out with her friends and working and stuff like that. So she really became more of my caregiver.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. And then the 14 months in between the time that she graduated high school and she died, about how much of that time did she end up living with you? Was it half the time, 90% of the time?
I have.
About half the time. And prior to her graduating high school, did she spend about half her time with you also while she was in high school?
Not so much.
Not so much. More after she graduated.
Yes.
All right. And during the time when she was staying with you, was she working?
She did.
All right. What
She always had a job. She always had a job. She was, I guess what you call the word, industrious. She prided herself on being independent. So if I'm not mistaken, my recollection, Tori might have started working when she was about 14 years old. Yeah.
In July of 2021, when all of this tragedy befell your family, do you recall where Tori was working at that time?
At that time, I do recall, because I really did not like what she was doing, but she was really good at it. She was doing DoorDash.
Okay. She was delivering food.
Yes.
I got you. And in July of 2021, that fateful month, was she living with you then?
No,
Okay.
not in that era.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. In the 50% of the time that Tori lived with you after high school, but before her untimely death, would Austin Ford come over and hang out with her at your home?
Outside, yeah, they'd be hanging out in the car. Yeah.
Fair enough. Did Austin Ford ever come into your home during that time between May of 2020 and July of 2021?
No, he did not. No.
Did you forbid him from coming in the house, or he just wasn't the type that knock on the door, pop up, and just, hey, I'm here to see Tori?
Oh no, I didn't forbid him. It's just like, I don't know. I guess she knew I wasn't into the kind of music they do. You know, they had I mean, they could have came in if they wanted to, but that was their choice.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you very much, Ms. Lang.
More than welcome.
Any redirect?
Bless her.
Briefly, Ms. Lang, is it fair to say that before Tori graduated from high school, you needed less caregiving than after?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that question?
Yes, ask the question a different way. You listed a number of conditions that you're living with.
Right.
Have they caused, your functionality to deteriorate over the years?
Oh, absolutely.
And so while Tori was in high school, did you need less help than the time after Tori graduated from high
That's
school?
correct. That's correct. And my condition, they kind of work together. Like if I'm having a lupus flare, it automatically triggers my arthritis. So the two together working, I'm balled up in a knot because the tension, joint pain, stuff like that. But yeah, it was less. It really became real severe with her passing. With her passing, I went into a deep depression, lost a lot of weight, like a whole nother person. My condition just got worse, and I saw therapy. It didn't do a lot of good because everywhere I go, everything I see, like my daughter has a room full of pictures. I can't do that. I can't. I would love to, but I feel like it would be a shrine or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And I just can't bear to look at it because it brings me to that dark place that she's just not here anymore.
Oh, bless her heart.
Thank you, Ms. Lang.
All right, Ms. Lang, thank you so much. Be careful.
Thank
Please watch your step coming down. The bailiff will assist you. All right, thank you. All right, please call your next witness.
Okay, I think we're going to end it for today. It's 4:30 my time, 5:30 Eastern. So we'll end it for today. Tomorrow, I'll double check because since we've been watching this, I haven't looked for updates. But I'll double check and see. Let me write this down. I will double check and see what's going on with the widow trial. And we can watch this one until that one starts. If they finish jury selection, I haven't even looked since we've been doing this. So if they finished jury selection, then we can, start on that one, and then we'll just kind of do updates on this one as it goes, just so we know what's going on. But if not, then we will kind of do the same thing tomorrow and just skip forward. Like I said, we're all Cellbrite experts, we're all gun experts, so we can skip through some of the stuff that's not necessarily like the meat and potatoes of the trial, and then just watch it as we go. It looks like they are going to have they're going to start tomorrow morning off with deciding if they're going to ban the mom from this trial. So that'll be interesting. We'll do a vote in the morning, that if y'all want to watch that part live and see what happens, and then watch the highlights from today, tomorrow after that. So we'll do a vote, and you'll kind of choose your own adventure as far as what we do that part, because it'll be kind of interesting. We'll vote on it, but we might watch that part live, and then after we see what they decide on that, then we can go back and watch the highlights from. I definitely want to see like medical examiner testimony, and hear what the medical examiner has to say about the gunshot, because they're saying what they say 10 to 12 inches away, and for somebody to shoot themselves 10 to 12 inches away doesn't sound normal. So I definitely want to see that. So we'll kind of play it by ear. I'll check into the how far they get today. Yeah, Casey, they said that I guess the mom took a picture in the courtroom, and it had the picture had jurors in it, so they took her cell phone, and they're not going to give her cell phone back until the end of the trial. And they're having a contempt hearing for her next Wednesday to determine what her punishment's going to be. If it's going to be, they said jail time or fine or what they're going to do. So that'll be the mom of the defendant. So and now they're talking about possibly having the mom of the defendant. It's like she knows I'm about to sign off. Now they're talking about having the mom of the defendant possibly banned from that. So we might watch that part live, and then watch some of the highlights of the other stuff. So we'll kind of play it by ear. And then I will check into, it'll be, right now it's only 2:30 in Las Vegas. So we won't know about the jury selection stuff until later this evening. So I'll double check on that. But that's all I got for today. So I am going to go rest a little bit. Don't forget, it's Wednesday. Thank you, Peter Steele. Thank you. I love y'all. Y'all just want to take care of me. Y'all are the best. I am going to go lay down, rest a little bit, and then I will update. I'll get updates on everything later this evening, and we'll figure out where to go from here. So, Lucy girl, say goodbye to your friends. Say goodbye to your friends. Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Lazy dog. All right, y'all. Thank you for reporting to jury duty. I will see y'all in the morning.